From the 5 million cheesecakes Juniors makes a year, to the 100,000 bagels made each week at Utopia, New York's best foods take a lot of time and effort. Here are the 25 New York eateries to put on your bucket list.
This is the oldest chocolate house in New York City. Exactly 100 years ago, Li-Lac Chocolates began serving this butter crunch, created by its Greek immigrant founder. Today, it's run by another immigrant who's kept many of the original recipes.
Before working at Li-Lac, I didn't even know what chocolate is.
Anwar Koder oversees the production of over 175,000 pounds of chocolate a year, and he still manages to keep it handmade and fresh. New York City was a major chocolate hub back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with big brands setting up their headquarters here. But many closed their doors in the wake of the Great Depression, or were sold to other companies. Li-Lac has managed to survive, despite going through several different owners and even having to relocate as rents soared. Its secret? Maintaining tradition, from its vintage molds to its tools, and most importantly, the recipes. At 8 in the morning, a sweet smell fills up Li-Lac's Brooklyn factory. In different corners, you'll see mesmerizing waterfalls of milk, dark, and white chocolate. The company prides itself on making its confections largely by hand and in small batches. That includes the founder's famous butter crunch, made the same way it was a century ago. It starts with sugar. Anwar still uses a scale that's been with the factory since day one.
The scale itself is over 120 years old. I know even the numbers are gone, faded, but I know where exactly put it. I'm still using it.
After working here for 34 years, he knows these measurements by heart.
And this is what cooking is. It doesn't have to be really precise. It's just the experience.
He hand scoops tapioca syrup into the mixer. This is one ingredient Anwar updated over the years. Originally, the recipe included corn syrup, but Anwar says he's now opting for healthier alternatives. He heats it all up so it turns brittle, then adds roughly 15 pounds of butter.
The cooked butter is just, it just penetrates you, it's in your head.
To give it a crunchy bite, he adds 3.5 pounds of chopped almonds. This layer of butter creates a non-stick surface on the marble table, the same one the founder worked with a century ago.
The marble tables are a part of the heritage in this company. They are been here since 1923.
The marble cools down the sticky mixture while keeping it soft enough to shape.
One of the very old tools we still use it to score all the candy.
Anwar and his team only have about 15 minutes to spread and cut the candy before it hardens. One batch can make 1,500 toffee squares. They shred fresh almonds into a mountain of dust and coat the candy in milk chocolate before mixing it into the almond powder. Throughout the day, Anwar moves around the factory, overseeing the chocolate production line.
Champagne? Okay, finish champagne. Okay, doing that.
He says he's memorized most of the company's 120 plus recipes, and about 65 of them made it into a recipe book that Anwar keeps in a safe.
The recipes was passed, through employees, basically, and that's how it survived.
We always talk about the original recipe. All of it in here. It's in pieces. They're not all together, Now I have them all in the computer.
Anwar also added a few of his own recipes, like for peanut butter cups and salted caramels. But 34 years ago, he didn't even imagine he would be running a chocolate factory.
I wasn't like a chocolate fan, basically, to be honest. Of course, like a little, but I wasn't a chocolate fan.
He moved to the United States from Lebanon to study computer programming when he was just 24 years old. But he had to drop out after his first year because his family back home couldn't afford the tuition fees.
I started looking for a job, part-time job, for pocket money.
He eventually landed one with Li-Lac just before Christmas of 1989.
I fell in love with the work itself from day one. I just loved it and picked it up right away.
Anwar looked for opportunities to make things more efficient at the factory. In 2 years, he was promoted to master chocolatier and has been doing the job ever since.
I was running the company, it's like my own company, even though I was just an employee there.
As technology advanced, the company had to adopt to some modern machinery to help ease production. Before, chocolatiers would hand dip every piece. But today, Li-Lac uses an enrobing machine that can coat 1,000 truffles with chocolate in 1 hour.
If any piece requires some designs on it, the design is made right here and it goes through a cooling tunnel. And it comes out the other side ready to pack.
One of the factory's rules is to never freeze its products.
That's when you lose your quality. I mean, we are very well known for freshness. We make small batches.
These tempering machines heat, cool, and mix the chocolate. Without them, the chocolate may look dull and feel crumbly. Employees fill up Li-Lac's specialty molds. And there are about 1,000 of them, including ones shaped like Easter bunnies, pizza, and soccer balls. Anwar has some that are older than the factory itself. These metal molds were made in the late 1800s.
This is actually an antique mold. As you see, it's a metal mold. The images on it, that no one makes them anymore. I mean, they are very rare to find.
And his collection just keeps growing.
Lamborghini, a Mercedes, a Porsche. It's all like from the 60s, maybe worse. Favorite? I like the Bentley, the old one, the Bentley. This comes like this, you see. Comes like this. Even the tires, it's a lot of work, you can do it.
Anwar never says no to a custom order, no matter how challenging it may be.
Even if I don't have the mold, I would purchase it. So we're just adding to our existing molds.
This giant turkey mold is almost 30 years old. Anwar bought it to use as a window display on Thanksgiving week. A customer saw it and ordered 15 chocolate turkeys a day before the holiday. Anwar said yes, knowing what it would mean.
I didn't go home that night. I spent all night making turkeys for him and got it ready by 10 o'clock in the morning.
Chocolate took off in the United States in the 19th century, when it became faster to make it using machines. Many iconic brands like Maillard's, Runkle Brothers, and Heiler's opened large chocolate factories in New York City in the late 1800s. Li-Lac was established in 1923 by George Demetrius, a Greek immigrant. But that era of growth would come to an end as the Great Depression loomed. Li-Lac managed to survive, but it hasn't been easy. Ever-rising rent prices have threatened the business for decades. While Li-Lac's shop stayed in the city, Anwar moved the entire production to its first Brooklyn factory starting Easter week of 2005.
The busiest week of the year. I moved the factory in 2 days.
Finding stable leadership has been a challenge too. The company has had 7 different owners since Demetrius died in 1972. Anwar's dedication to Li-Lac paid off when he became part owner in 2011. Today, he runs the business with Anthony Cerrone and a third owner, Christopher Taylor.
When Anthony came and he had in mind, if you want to grow the company, the only condition I have with him, is I don't want to change the way we make chocolate. And this was fine. He was fine with that.
We both agreed you never touched the recipes of an old school company. That's just something you don't do.
Since they began their partnership, Li-Lac has expanded from 2 New York shops to 6. But as the company continues to grow, quality and tradition remain their priorities.
We sell something that's 100 years old, and people, there's a whole nostalgia to chocolate. You have to know what your traditions are. We all agreed at the same time you had to keep the packaging and the brand fresh.
They make their chocolate in this roughly 9,000 square foot factory in Brooklyn's Industry City. Passers-by can peek through the glass window to see how chocolate is made. Anwar says Li-Lac does not make extra chocolate stock, use preservatives, or freeze its chocolate to sell later. So during its busiest occasions, like Valentine's Day and Easter, the team works to fill orders and keep its shelves stocked.
You buy things, 1 day old, made 2 days ago or 3 days ago.
They also started selling chocolates online and shipping abroad. But everything came to a halt in 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic forced Li-Lac to close its doors right before Easter.
We really had a tough time during the pandemic. Employees went home and no one was working.
What Anwar wasn't expecting was that soon after, online sales would actually soar.
For some reason, people go to chocolate, maybe make them feel better, make them, feel happier, for some reason. We were only a few people here, and orders starts coming. 300, 400, 500 orders a day, and we don't have the employees, to keep up with it. Oh, we work long hours, 7 days a week. We survived. That's what made Li-Lac survive the pandemic.
Anwar's vision is to make Li-Lac chocolates the best, not just in the city, but beyond.
I would like to see the company as #1 chocolate company in the United States. Or to say, what the #1 chocolate company is Li-Lac Chocolate.
Juicy, spicy tacos dipped into a cup of piping hot consomme. If you're not paying attention, you could walk by some of the best tacos in New York City.
I had tacos all over the world, and this is probably one of the best I ever ate. I had to stop here every day after work.
Queens has some of the most diverse food in the continental U.S. And one of the buzziest new spots here is this unassuming taco truck.
Now, I love very little in this life more than a good taco, and these tacos, these specific kinds of tacos, have been taking over my Instagram feed, they've been taking over LA, they have finally hit New York, and I cannot wait to get my hands on them. So let's go check it out.
Food truck Birria-Landia opened in the fall of 2019, and it didn't take long for New Yorkers to take note. It even received a 2-star review from the New York Times, which rarely covers food trucks. Brothers Jose and Jesus Moreno run the whole operation, with Jose taking the day shift to prep and cook, and Jesus staying until the early morning hours to serve hungry night owls. There are only 4 items on the menu: tacos, tostadas, molitas, and consomme. And each is stuffed with this, a spicy beef stew called birria, which has its roots in Mexico but has, in recent years, dominated the Los Angeles food scene.
I went to California, then this tacos of birria is so popular over there in LA. I get back to New York, I feel like I miss them. Because the only way if I want to eat tacos of birria again is if I make it. Nobody sells over here this way.
The birria begins here, in a shared kitchen space where various New York City food trucks prep for service. 3 times a week, Jose fills these 4 massive pots with the ingredients needed to make enough fresh birria to feed an army.
I'm using all my experience, 20 years, to put in this pack of birria we make with love. Like, we take the time to put the salt piece by piece, and you let it rest, that meat can absorb the salt, and then it's much better.
Porque la birria es mejor, esta es mejor, dependiendo las, pero o sea, cada persona la hace diferente, pero él la prepara, es mejor, el procedimiento, todo, y si la haces con amor te va a salir mejor.
In its birthplace of Jalisco, Mexico, traditional birria is made with lamb or goat. But because it's a bit more accessible, Birria-Landia's take starts with 100 pounds of beef cut into large chunks and seasoned generously with salt and pepper. each pot, Jose adds a blend of spices, all of which he measures not so precisely with a serving spoon. Paprika, bay leaves, oregano, cumin, cinnamon, cloves, salt, and pepper. He blends together chipotle peppers and fresh onions, boiled guajillo peppers, and garlic, like a lot of garlic, to give this dish its signature depth and spice. The blender is tiny, so it takes a lot of batches to pump out enough puree to flavor all this birria. The birria is left to marinate for about 4 hours, then separated. The beef from the stew is chopped up and used in the tacos, mulitas, and tostadas, and the broth is saved to make a hearty cup of soup called consomme. Then it's all packed up and loaded onto the truck. Birria-Landia parks in the same spot starting at 5 p.m. every day, on Roosevelt Avenue in Jackson Heights, Queens, right under the elevated tracks of the 7 train. The perfect spot for hungry commuters and pedestrians.
People from everywhere are eating my tacos, and that made me so happy. We are in the right moment. Right now, it's tacos fever all New York.
Once parked, the real work begins. These tacos are all about flavor, so it's no wonder the tortillas are dipped in the residual fat from the consomme. Not only does this add flavor and the signature bright red color, but it also saves some money, because there's no reason to buy frying oil. They're topped with the beef from the birria stew, of course, then onion and fresh cilantro.
I usually don't like tacos in New York City because of the tortilla, because it's pretty bland, and these are very good.
Was it worth coming out here on this cold, cold day to eat a taco?
We live right around here, so it's just a walk for us.
Oh, so you're cheating.
Yeah.
Okay.
And according to Chef Jose, if you don't get a cup of consomme to dip your tacos in, you're doing it all wrong.
We are right now the classic taco de birria.
Okay.
It's the classic, the meat, onion, cilantro, and sauce. This is the magic. This is the magic, the truth. You eat the taco and the consomme in one bite. I mean, this is genius.
On a day like today, when it is 25 degrees outside, this is the best thing I could have thought to have eaten. You can tell with the meat that you really took the time to season it, and it's spicy, but it's not overwhelmingly spicy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's built for all different kinds of palates. And the tortilla, it's like crispy, but it's soft.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. You have both texture when you eat.
Yeah, I could eat 12 of these.
A lot of people, they just dip the taco, eat the finish, and they left the consomme.
That's a crime. The consomme is the best part. Next time I have a cold, will you bring this to my house?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is very special.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
There's nothing more New York than a pastrami on rye. And no one does it better than Katz's.
I've tried to eat deli all over the world, but the only place to have it is New York City. Had to have it at Katz's.
Hey guys, it's Spencer, and I'm outside Katz's Delicatessen. This is one of the most legendary places in New York City. It's been here since 1888, so I'm gonna go try their famous pastrami on rye and see if it lives up to the hype.
Katz's Delicatessen has been a New York institution for over 130 years. The old school deli is like a living museum. Not only is it the oldest Jewish deli in New York, but it's one of the only delis of its kind still in operation at all.
Coming to Katz's is a throwback. It's a snapshot in time. It's being connected to your parents, to your grandparents, to your great-grandparents, to your great-great-grandparents, because they all came here. We do not believe in changing pretty much anything, from the walls to the neons, to the pictures, to the staff, to the food, to the recipes. We don't really believe in changing it. You come here because you want that nostalgia and that tradition and that food that you know and love.
Jewish deli food dates back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when waves of Eastern European Jews immigrated to New York's Lower East Side, bringing traditional Eastern European foods like cured meats and pickled vegetables along with them. Delis became a meeting ground where tradition blended with new American culture. At one time, kosher-style delis like Katz's were a dime a dozen. But thanks to things like gentrification and changing food trends, Katz's is the only one that's been able to survive the ages. Part of its success is due to exposure. Over the years, Katz's nostalgic setting has been the backdrop for countless movies and TV shows, the most famous of which is Meg Ryan's iconic scene in When Harry Met Sally.
The scene with Meg Ryan is one of my favorite scenes in all the movies we've ever seen. So.
Reenact it now, right?
Oh, not right now. Oh, no.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
I'll have what she's having.
Hollywood fame aside, Katz's success is also thanks to the fact that their food is really just that good. The menu has all the classics you'd expect from a Jewish deli, but most people show up for their legendary pastrami and corned beef.
Can you describe what their pastrami tastes like to me?
Heaven. It's the only place in the world to get a pastrami sandwich. I mean, I wouldn't have it anyplace else.
It's about treating each piece of meat like you would a child and knowing what to do with it and how to take care of it from start to finish. That makes us so special. We cook it longer than anyone else. We cook it so long that it would fall apart if you tried to put it in a slicer. So it's so juicy, so tender that you have to carve it by hand.
Their hand-sliced approach means each sandwich is expertly carved to order. To keep the crowds moving, Katz's is set up with multiple carvers at multiple counters. And let's just say, you better be prepared to order when you get in line.
So when you walk in, you're gonna get a ticket. That's our system. We've been doing it the same way for 131 years.
Feed me.
Be prepared, because if you get all the way to the front of the line and don't know what you want, you're gonna get yelled at.
I would like pastrami on rye.
But you already know what you want. You want a pastrami, you want some latkes, you want some matzo ball soup, you're good. No problem, don't worry about it.
So that was the easy part. Finding a seat is the hard part. I don't know. I might have to eat it standing up, which I would.
So we have here the pastrami. Just classic, juicy, perfect, fantastic. You can't go wrong.
Do you have any tips for digging into this monster of a sandwich?
Just do it. Just embrace it.
Just go for it.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. All right. Oh my God.
Go for it. How many top you? All right. I'm gonna take my bite.
That is unreal.
All right, good.
Oh man. Give me one of those napkins. I gotta fix my face. So this is the juiciest pastrami I've ever had.
Thank you. That's
How is that possible?
131 years of practice. That's how it's possible.
All right, there you go.
Eating that sandwich was a religious experience. I'm talking mouth-watering perfection. Even still, it almost took a back seat to the actual experience of just being in that noisy, chaotic room, literally surrounded by Katz's history. Photos from everyone who's come before, and signs from a near-forgotten era. All of it a reminder that Katz's will always be here for you, just as it always has. Timeless, in a city barreling toward the future.
There's nothing like nostalgia. I mean, there's nothing more powerful than those traditions. I can't believe that this is my life, and this is what we get to do for a living, is to preserve a tradition and make people happy, hopefully. So it's humbling, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
Every cheesecake squirted out of this machine costs twice as much to make than it did a few years ago. Junior's pumps out, bakes, and packages 5 million cheesecakes a year. And the company has used the same recipe since the 1950s, but it's gotten a lot harder. First, there was a cream cheese shortage.
You can't make cheesecake without cream cheese. It's impossible.
And now, inflation has caused the prices of other ingredients to soar.
I've been doing this for 33 years, and I've never seen a time like this, ever. And I can venture to say if my father was alive, he never saw a time like this either.
Now that he's taken over, Alan expects a tough work ethic out of all of his employees.
The sandwiches, not great, Nas. Am I wrong?
Third-generation owner Alan Rosen takes us behind the scenes.
It's like watching a baby being born, to me.
To see how Junior's keeps rolling out its famous cheesecakes in the face of shrinking margins. Here in New York City, Junior's is an institution, but its cheesecakes aren't actually made in the city anymore. In 2015, the company moved to this New Jersey plant.
When we took over this building, because we didn't have the space to do it out of Queens.
240 workers whip up millions of cheesecakes and layer cakes here every year. Not surprisingly, every batch starts with the most important ingredient.
This year we'll probably go through about 7 million pounds of cream cheese.
Junior's partners with Kraft Heinz, the maker of Philadelphia cream cheese. Workers unwrap each of those giant blocks of cream cheese and tip them into the mixing bowl.
So far we have cream cheese, we have sugar, we have eggs. Still to come, we have some heavy cream, some vanilla, and I think that's just about it. It's kind of simple.
Workers roll these giant mixing bowls over to the assembly line. To speed up production, Alan added automatic depositors.
It gets pumped up here into here. This is going to meter out exactly the right amount.
First, workers drop a slice of vanilla cake, not graham cracker crust, into each pan.
We use cake on the bottom because this is a recipe that my grandfather created in 1950. It's a lot of work just to make the bottoms.
Slowly, the pump works its way through the entire batch of batter, plopping perfect dollops into each pan. Then this guy knocks out any excess air. On this line, they're making strawberry swirl cheesecake. The swirl used to be piped by hand, but this robot took over the gig in 2017. Next, the cakes head to baking, but this step also has a unique twist.
A lot of bakeries use rack ovens where you just slide the whole rack in, slide the whole rack out. It doesn't work for our cheesecake.
His team bakes the dense cakes in a water bath.
Spreads the heat evenly, the bottoms of the cakes don't burn, they rise up like a souffle. You can see how the cakes are literally above the pan.
When they're golden brown, workers pull out the trays and pour out leftover water. Then, they test the internal temperature.
They take temperatures for food safety, but I can see with my eyes.
After they've rested, the cakes aren't jiggly anymore.
We don't do jiggly, we do Juniors.
Using this repurposed pizza oven, bakers can heat the pans just enough to release the settled cakes.
After the cheesecakes get depanned, we bring them into our blast freezer.
Alan keeps it at a balmy 0 degrees inside. But it's not just plain or swirl cheesecakes in this freezer. The company whips up dozens of different flavors of cheesecakes, layer cakes, and desserts. The chocolate mousse cheesecake is hit with a heaping pile of mousse, doused in a waterfall of chocolate and covered in mini chocolate chips. There's also the pumpkin layer cake cheesecake. Robots and bakers work together to ice it. leftover cake tops are ground up to make the crumb that goes around the edges. All the finished and chilled cakes converge on the packaging line, from the pumpkin cheesecake to the 24 mini cheesecake variety pack bound for Costco. Workers place each cake in a box, slap on a label, and put it in an even bigger box. That all heads to the freezer a second time. This will all be gone within 30 days.
Right now it's enough space, but I can see maybe next year us needing even more space. This is going around the whole country.
Most of the 6-inch cheesecakes end up in one of the 12,000 supermarkets supplied by Juniors.
From Wegmans to Kroger, Publix, Stop and Shop, ShopRite.
Alan's grandfather, Harry Rosen, opened up the first Juniors location on Election Day in 1950.
He said, if we're going to be a great restaurant in New York, we have to have great cheesecake. Some people venture to guess that my grandfather named it after his two sons, Walter and Marvin, my father, my uncle, but Jews don't really do the junior thing, so that's a little out the window.
Over the next few decades, Junior's popularity soared. It wasn't long before celebrities and politicians were digging into these iconic slices.
We started a mail order business late 80s, okay, before food by mail was a thing, and people were calling from Florida and California. Then in 1995, we met QVC. They were doing a search for America's best products state by state. We went on and I think we sold 2,400 cheesecakes in like 6 or 7 minutes.
Today, Juniors has 4 restaurants in the New York area, a quick service at LaGuardia Airport, a direct-to-consumer business, and a booming retail presence.
Oh, we're definitely the biggest cheesecake company in New York. So the top seller in our restaurants is either strawberry cheesecake or New York style cheesecake.
Visitors from all over the world stop in for a slice.
Yeah, my name is Marvin. I'm from Germany. Brownie explosion cheesecake. I think it's like a full meal.
But keeping up with all this demand for cheesecake hasn't been easy, even for a giant like Juniors. In 2020, the pandemic shut down all of the restaurants.
I sort of joked with my mom that thankfully my dad was deceased before COVID, because COVID would have killed him, not the disease, but the fact that his restaurants, his babies, were not doing what they were supposed to do for, in some cases, 14 or 19 months.
At the time, the company's direct-to-consumer sales actually doubled. But then came the great cream cheese shortage of 2021.
Last year we started to, we heard about it, and then all of a sudden Jason calls me and says, there's no cream cheese. I'm like, what do you mean there's no cream cheese? You can't make cheesecake without cream cheese.
A cyber attack hit a cream cheese factory in Wisconsin. It wasn't Philadelphia's facility, but Kraft faced spiking demand and supply chain issues of its own. The company struggled to get a hold of starch thickeners and packaging materials. Without any cream cheese, Alan had to shut down the factory, and the team missed a couple of big orders.
And a couple of orders for us are trailers full, about 70,000 pounds, so it's a big deal. I was sweating it out pretty good.
By early 2022, Kraft had restored cream cheese supplies to Juniors.
So we are one of the biggest users of cream cheese in the country.
Just in time for inflation to hit.
Every ingredient is up right now, from eggs to sugar, heavy cream, but cream cheese is definitely the highest priced ingredient that we use right now.
Alan says the price Juniors pays for cream cheese more than doubled, from $1.50 a pound to over $3.
It's the demand, it's based off of the butter markets, and dairy prices are just very high right now, and that's why it's affecting the price of cream cheese. Everything is up. Labor obviously is up.
Junior sales have bounced back to pre-pandemic levels, with $110 million in expected sales this year.
But costs have escalated so dramatically that profits in the restaurant business and the wholesale business are way down.
Alan said profit margins dropped by 6%.
Oh, it's brutal. No, there's no doubt. It is the hardest time in I've been doing this for 33 years, and I've never seen a time like this, ever.
So Alan made the decision to raise prices.
Our product cost has literally doubled for cheesecake. Doubled. We can't double our prices. That's impossible.
But Alan says higher retail prices haven't stopped customers.
No, not at all. I've had their cheesecake hundreds of times over many years, believe it or not, from when I was a kid.
Restaurants kind of around where we're from ordered this cheesecake to be shipped to Oklahoma City.
But even if food costs continue to rise, Alan says he'll never touch the recipe.
You know, we had to move people around and reschedule, but we're not changing any recipes here. That's never happening. Yeah. We'd sooner not make cake. Listen, we have a 72-year history of making cheesecake the exact way we're doing it, exactly the same way forever. We're not changing that.
So how does he plan to stay afloat? One, with those robots, and then with new products, from cheesecake shakes to updated cake flavors, like this strawberry Christmas cheesecake.
Oh my God, that is so good.
And finally, Alan says diversifying helped him weather the storms of recent years. Of course, Junior's has the restaurants, but what it makes from supermarket sales is quickly catching up.
I would say it's about 50-50. The restaurants drive about half the volume of the company, and this drives about half the volume of the company. I think the fact that we are diversified is what saved us.
But is this business sustainable if food prices keep increasing?
You know what? The tell will be in the next 3 months. I think it's sustainable because I'm a big believer in our business and how good we are at it, and that people are always going to want a cheesecake.
Thank you. Prince Street Pizza started January 2013, and our most famous slice is our spicy spring pepperoni Sicilian.
You can't find this pizza anywhere else.
With a lot of the slices that we have in the store, they're named after streets in the neighborhood to pay homage to the neighborhood because I have a lot of roots in here.
Why Spring Street specifically?
It just rhymed. Honestly, it just rhymed. The Spicy Spring is a Sicilian, special cut Italian pepperoni, and it has a low moisture fresh mozzarella, and it's fried diavolo sauce, which is my grandfather's recipe. For the people at home to know what fried diavolo is, it's a spicy marinara sauce. With our pepperoni, it's different from the original types of pepperonis that are really flat and they're kind of like bologna-ish. These ones are the sticks, and we cut them to where it's not too thin and not too thick. You cut it right in the middle.
Why do you decide to put so much pepperoni on here?
This goes back to what we originally talked about in the video from a couple of years ago. You ever see the movie Casino with Robert De Niro? There's a scene in that movie where he's eating a muffin with another guy. He looks at that guy's muffin, he notices that it has more blueberries in it. He goes, why does your muffin have more blueberries in it than mine? It would get people annoyed that your pepperoni square has more pepperonis than mine. You grab a scoop, even it out, and then go from there. It'll upset people if you don't give an even amount of pepperoni in every slice, like Robert De Niro said.
We waited like 40-ish minutes?
43 to be exact. It is around the block.
Thank you. Okay, there's truly no place to sit. You
guys got it?
Yeah, we got it. There's no place to sit.
Wait, where is he taking us? Oh.
She's stunning.
My goodness.
Is it anything like you've ever seen before?
No, I've literally never seen that many peps before.
Honestly, this whole experience is a very new thing for me. Sitting in a basement of a pizza shop.
I've never sat in a basement of a pizza shop.
Do you have a preference on what slice you want?
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
They're all honestly perfectly beautiful, but let's see, this one's like calling to me.
Okay. Even distribution, thick cups.
Even, thick. It looks spicy. Let's see if it's spicy. I'm a little worried, like what if it's too salty? There's so many peps. But let's see, let's see. Okay. So I don't know if it's because I don't get out much, but I've never had a pepperoni that's cooked like this. Like, do you see the coloring? It's like a beautiful work of art. It's perfectly crispy on the outside and it's thick. And the grease like pools in the middle, like a little like hot tub that you want to go swim in and never leave.
No.
Okay, cool. How's the crust?
So many things going on. You get the caramelization from the pepperoni, but also from the crust. The sauce is spicy and like not wet.
Yeah.
It's just overwhelming, but in the best way possible. Like overwhelming in the sense that like you're struggling to eat it, but you can't wait to get that next bite because it's just that good. This place is probably the most famous place we're going to be going to
Yes.
for pancakes.
I've been trying to get it in here for like 3 years. There's always a line. I can never get in.
This place honestly has won so many awards for their blueberry pancakes, and that's what we're gonna be trying.
I am so excited, Harren. Let's go. Let's go.
I don't think our pancakes are the best. I know they are. They're just like the perfect balance of sweet, savory, luxurious deliciousness. The recipe is not secret. It's the more of the technique and the procedure of the way it's put together that makes them so special. Plus great ingredients. Basically, a pancake is a cake batter. So when you flip it, all the active ingredients like the salt and the sugar and the baking powder and all of that, it's a chemical reaction. When you flipped it, that's when it rose. And those active ingredients are making a cake rise. And that's the less scientific explanation for it. Are you guys learning anything here? We do a sprinkling of fresh wild Maine blueberries. Wild Maine blueberries are the key to our blueberry pancakes. They only grow in Maine for a month, and then they're harvested. They are an intense blueberry flavor packed in a tiny little berry. The ring on the pancake is like the Lord of the Rings. It's gotta be there. It's the butter that creates that crispy ring that makes the texture of eating what you're eating so delicious. And it's also a look. We eat with our eyes, so as soon as you see them, you see that beautiful, perfect sphere. We put a spoon of our homemade blueberry sauce on the top, which is a beautiful complement to the fresh blueberries in the pancake. We have this amazing maple butter. It has a lot of essence of butterscotch, caramel, brown sugar. It takes all those nuances on, and it's really the perfect accompaniment to our pancakes.
I really want to know what's so special about these pancakes. So color-wise, it's everything and more that we wanted. A beautiful golden brown.
Perfectly cooked. Like, this is my ideal looking pancake.
I know, I didn't know this, but the ring actually is something that you should look for because it signifies that there's like a crispiness to it.
Oh my God.
Topping game, they won.
I have tears in my eyes.
You actually do. That was like
Feel
instantaneous.
like I'm gonna cry. I'm not even kidding.
Oh my God, you just got really emotional.
I know. No, I'm not even kidding. This is one of the best things I've ever eaten this season.
You only tried the topping on
I
it.
know.
Shall we?
Dip.
Wow. It's astonishing how pancakes can be this good. It's like a maple butter sauce, and it has like a caramelly taste to it.
I die for that because I thought it was gonna be like super buttery and heavy, but it has the maple, and that makes it a little lighter.
Yeah, and it's a little nutty.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Can I talk to you about this sauce?
You may talk to me about this sauce. What's
There's
up?
lemon in it,
That's
and
true.
that's what the game changer is.
It has that nice like burst of acidity and freshness to it.
You know I'm a sweet kind of gal, and every element of this pancake is done so perfectly. I'm trying to like be like, oh, let's work on this. I can't think of anything to work on.
If you pick apart each part of the pancake, there's not much to critique.
No.
And also, it's not as sweet as I was expecting it to be. We totally completely forgot about the fact that there are not just blueberries on top, there are blueberries inside.
That's essential.
And it does give that extra texture, like it bursts with juice and flavor. It's delicious.
They taste like amped up, like childhood pancakes. What is your favorite element if you had to choose one?
I honestly think the texture and color is like, it can't be beat.
This 200-pound mountain of dough will soon be hand-rolled into 1,000 bagels. Just a small fraction of the 100,000 bagels made at this shop every week. Workers start the baking process at 3 a.m. and continue way past lunch hours. But according to owner Scott Spellman, the guarantee of a fresh, hot bagel is why Utopia Bagels stands out from the thousands of other stores across New York City.
I'll say it time and time again. You may have tried a bagel, but once you try my bagel, you will not eat another bagel.
It all starts with a 41-year-old dough recipe that uses barley malt.
It's a really old school way of doing a bagel. Most stores that make bagels today use brown sugar, but to make a good quality bagel, you need this ingredient.
Next, they add salt and a large scoop of Puratos Bagel Improver.
So what that does, it softens the dough inside and it crisps the crust outside.
Then they start filling the mixer with New York City tap water, but it has to be at just the right temperature.
We tend to use water that's around 60 degrees, 62, 63, but temperatures of the water may change when it's hotter and colder throughout the year.
Then it's time to add in 200 pounds of all-purpose flour, a small portion compared to what they have on hand.
You're looking at about 7,000 pounds of flour. Almost a 2-day amount for us that will go through all this flour, and this is actually just one of my mountains of flour.
The final ingredient is yeast, but for flavored bagels, the recipe may change slightly to include eggs, sugar, or freeze-dried blueberries, depending on the flavor. There is no set time for when the dough is finished mixing. According to Scott, it takes a keen eye and years of experience.
It's a thing called when it's ready. How long have you been making bagels? 18 years. Daniel's been rolling 18 years. It takes understanding the temperature in the air. It takes understanding his machine that he works with, how long it should mix. All these things are such important factors about what happens with our bagel.
Once the dough reaches the desired consistency, it's cut into sections and transferred over to the rolling table, where it's then formed into one large mound.
We can make up to 15,000 bagels in a day, and this will make approximately 1,000 bagels.
They cover the entire thing with a plastic sheet to help soften the dough before rolling.
And it's only about a 5-minute process that allows that dough to connect a little better with each other. They're saying hello, how are you? All those ingredients are basically doing that right now.
At any given point, there are 4 expert rollers on hand. These skilled men have between 15 and 27 years of experience perfecting their craft, something Scott says is a dying breed.
There's not a school of rolling bagels out there right now, and these people are experts at their field. Listen, I think Derek Jeter said it best. If you put 10,000 hours into something, you're a professional. And Daniel has definitely put 10,000 hours into it.
It takes an hour to an hour and a half for these hand rollers to individually slice, roll, and twist about 1,000 bagels.
It takes a certain type of character because it's very tedious. You're cutting the same thing over and over. And I can tell who is rolling what bagel by the way they lock their bagel and form it together. Daniel has that little lip here that I noticed about Daniel's rolling that I can see, you know, those were Daniel's bagels. And it gives each bagel their own personality. Our bagels are like snowflakes. Everyone is individually different, and that's what makes it special.
Once the bagels are rolled, they're placed on these racks, covered with plastic and left to proof for a half hour. They then move into one of 3 fridges to ferment for at least 24 hours.
What we're gonna do now is open these bagels up because we still have to reduce the heat to stop the rising of these bagels. We tend to stop the proofing where a lot of places tend to expand their proofing so that bagels are bigger. There's a misconception that bigger bagels are better, and they're not by far. As you see, each rack has approximately 1,000 bagels. So you're looking at 10,000, 15,000 bagels right before your eyes. And this is only one of my fridges that we keep the bagels. Here's my second fridge. Again, you have racks of bagels, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have close to 7,000, 8,000 more bagels. So this is basically where we'll keep our everyday making of the bagels. Now it's time for fun and games. We're gonna start baking some bagels. We'll always have 2 people working the oven. So there's a kettle man, which we'll call him. So he'll control the flow of the bagels into the kettle. And then there's the guy on the oven that will be his director. But the kettle is the ultimate guy in control because he knows when that bagel's ready to come out of that kettle. It's so important.
Once the bagels have been properly boiled, they're scooped over to boards that have been pre-seasoned with the appropriate flavors, such as poppy, sesame, or the very popular everything mix.
Now, are these hot? Yes, they are very hot. But if you watch me, I'm constantly dipping my hand in water to remove some of that heat. Now, this again is where we put on both sides. So we're seasoning both boards, both sides.
After workers carefully coat each bagel, they move the boards into the oven.
Now, why we're putting them on boards? Because if we put these bagels in straight, they would stick to the slate that they're being cooked on. We put 6 bagels on a board. There's 16 boards that'll go into the oven. We have a Middleby Marshall, a 1947 oven. It is the heart and soul of my business. We're able to produce up to 1,000 bagels an hour on it.
After a few rotations around the oven, the boards are flipped so the bottom of the bagels can cook evenly. Then they're ready to be pulled and served to customers.
See, these are so, look at it, look at the color on this bagel. Look at that beautiful crisp crust. My son always does the knock test, but feel that crisp crust? Look at that steam coming out of that bagel.
In total, Utopia Bagels offers 30 kinds of bagels and various sandwiches like the bacon, egg and cheese, or the classic lox. 43 staff members make up Utopia Bagels, and they all work like a well-oiled machine to serve the 3,500 customers who visit the shop every week.
We're busiest on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We could have a line lasting for 8 hours straight. But you get me crying about my customers because our fan base is like none other.
It's like a landmark. Everybody's been coming here for over 50 years. It's like a home place for everybody.
It's the atmosphere, it's the people, it's the owner. Everybody's so nice here. And when you come in, you feel welcomed. Everything is good. I've been around to other bagel stores, but there's no place like home. Scott treats you like family when you come here. Utopia Bagels is the best.
The most important thing about our bagels is right here. And I get emotional about it, but it's the heart and soul. Every worker here has heart and soul. It truly is something I live for and something we work at. You know, my passion for making people smile with our food and what we produce is a joy for me. It really is.
In a city that never sleeps, bodegas, carts, and diners are routine hotspots for late-night eats. But one 24-hour joint in New York City stands out as a sacred site for all things junk food. And it's been there for decades. Its name? Ray's Candy Store.
This is a staple of the Lower East Side. Like, this is an awesome place to like just come after work, just grab an ice cream, or, you know, on a cute date or something.
It's like it never really changes. So it's kind of like this timepiece.
It's almost like an oasis for people here. It holds the community together a bit.
Step into Ray's candy store and you instantly travel back to the 80s. The narrow shop is splattered with a collage of Ray's snacks, pictures with celebrities and friends, news clips of high praise, and of course, lots and lots of junk food.
We sell everything. Cigarette, beer, fried Oreo, French fries, chicken, green card, anything you want.
That's Asghar Kahraman, widely known in the neighborhood as Ray Alvarez. Ray came to the United States in 1963 after abandoning the Iranian Navy, jumping off a ship that was docked off of Virginia. Without any papers, Asghar adopted a Puerto Rican identity and worked odd jobs at restaurants until he scrambled enough money to buy a store.
So since that, I am Ramon Alvarez.
Ray's Candy Store has now been serving late-night munchies in the East Village for over 45 years. And Ray, who is now 86 years old, works the overnight shift, waking up at 4 in the afternoon to run his shop until the next morning.
I work 7 days a week. I work from 4 o'clock afternoon till next morning. No day off, no vacation.
At first, the candy store sold only egg creams, coffee, and French fries. But with the rise of rent prices each year, Ray added new items to the menu to make ends meet.
I like to make things that people like. I enjoy when they are happy. That's my reward.
But diversifying his menu wasn't enough. In 2010, Ray faced increasing pressure to close down his shop as rent tripled. Members of the local community stepped in and started a crowdfunding campaign to keep Ray's open. With an elevated social media presence and local financial support, Ray's Candy Store was saved.
People came and they donate money. They helped me. Save the Ray. You know, every bar, they had a music, Save the Ray.
People just want to come in and support, and they care about Ray, and they see that he cares about them, and he puts like real love into his food.
Hershey, this is my favorite thing in the world, Hershey bar. Yummy.
So the reason I actually came to Ray's is because Anthony Bourdain came to Ray's in one of his episodes, and that's why I'm here to try the egg cream. I've never had egg cream. I didn't know what it was, so it's my first time trying that. But yeah.
I just walked across into Tompkins Square Park and I'm about to try Ray's deep fried Oreos for the very first time. I'm really excited because I'm a big fan of Oreos and I've never had it deep fried, so let's just see how it is. Okay, which one do I pick? I like this one, the one with the powdered sugar. Ready? Oh my God. This is heaven.
My favorite thing is the fried Oreos. Yeah, they're magical.
Cheers. Good.
Pretty good.
Very good.
We finished the whole thing.
With a newly painted storefront and his East Village family in tow, Ray and his candy store are here to stay. A generous helping of golden yellow rice sits underneath 12-hour marinated chicken, seared until tender. Roasted gyro meat sliced straight from the vertical spit. Packed together with crisp lettuce, tomato, onions, and peppers, along with a few delicate slices of pita served soft and warm from the stove. But it's the extra creamy secret white sauce and notoriously spicy red sauce that made the Halal Guys chicken and gyro platter a New York legend. The word halal refers to a specific way of butchering meat in the religion of Islam. But in New York, because of this one food cart, people also use halal as shorthand for a whole collection of street meats, sandwiches, and combo platters. The most famous of which is a platter with only 5 key ingredients.
It's like one of my favorite foods to eat. So I came the first time I remember and I ate it and I was in love instantly. And it was like one of the best things I've ever ate in my life. Till now.
Egyptian too.
Yeah.
So they're Egyptian. Just feels like.
Feels like home.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Combo, everything on it. Combination? Sure.
The combo platter starts with a layer of golden yellow rice, which is made from scratch, off-site before heading to the cart. This basmati rice takes the longest to make, stirred for over 45 minutes and prepared in 40-pound batches, enough to fill 60 to 70 platters. But really, it's the chicken that takes the most care and attention. It's always marinated for 12 hours. And although the recipe is secret, Middle Eastern street meats generally use a marinade of herbs, lemon, olive oil, salt, and pepper. The Halal Guys wait to chop the chicken until it's cooked. This way, it stays tender and becomes as juicy as can be.
After we cook it and well done, we cover up by the pita bread. You will get the flavor of the chicken in the pita bread.
Next comes the beloved beef gyro, which is half-cooked on a vertical spit. Another secret recipe, the seasoning likely has a mix of traditional gyro spices like salt, pepper, paprika, and oregano. Cooks shave it as soon as the meat becomes a dark brown color, using a mechanic slicer rather than a knife because it's quicker and more consistent. Back at the cart, the gyro shavings are placed on the stove and chopped into even squares. Initially, the Halal Guys serve gyro meat in long shavings, like many other halal food vendors. But they switched to smaller pieces in order to keep up with demand. And finally, but maybe most importantly, comes this question.
White sauce all over?
Yeah, just all over the chicken, please.
Okay, no problem.
Like a lot of it. Yeah.
You have to get the sauces, most importantly, the white sauce. I personally never asked the exact name of it, but that really makes the meal.
It's just white sauce.
Right, I think we all call it white sauce.
Carts across the city have tried to mimic the recipe, but the Halal Guys says no other place has cracked the code. Based on the to-go packets of white sauce, this creamy substance is a combination of mayo, black pepper, vinegar, salt, and a few other ingredients. But one thing we're sure about, the red sauce isn't for everyone.
We call the white sauce 911 because it's very, very spicy. I personally have not tasted it.
What? Ever?
Never. I don't eat spicy. I cannot tolerate spicy.
The sauce has a Scoville rating between 100,000 and 130,000, which is over 40 times hotter than Tabasco.
Hot sauce too?
The cart guys won't let you walk away without telling you just how spicy it can be, and recommend taking a couple of packets to go rather than drizzling too much on your platter.
I love the white sauce, and I love spicy, so definitely love the red sauce too. Recommend both.
Next time we'll get barbecue.
Okay. Wait, this barbecue? Oh, dude.
30 years ago, there were few halal carts in Manhattan, until the Halal Guys opened one on West 53rd and 6th Avenue. It didn't take too long to win over customers, particularly cab drivers looking for an easy way to eat halal.
At that time, they didn't find any halal food in New York City. So they came up with the idea, there's a lot of Muslims here. Why can't we provide a full halal meal for Muslim cabbies? And it started that way.
Now, street meat is everywhere. But those cabbies have spread the word about the platters and gyros specifically from the Halal Guys.
We have deals for cab drivers, okay, like better pricing, couple of bucks cheaper, something, discount.
Not to mention, there's even an express taxi line for drivers only.
It's unfair, but this is their policy, that if you're a cab driver, you don't have to wait in the line. You just skip from here and we give your sandwich or whatever the meal and you keep going, so.
Halal street food has become a staple meal for New Yorkers and a rite of passage for visitors. The cart has been praised by magazines, radio stations, and celebrities.
Just something you have to try. It's like you can't go to New York and not try Halal Guys.
What does it remind you of? Home, love, sweetness, not sweetness, spiciness. Oh my God, the chicken is so tender. The rice is exquisite. And the white sauce, I would die for the white sauce. Just how the white sauce complements the chicken and the spices that it's marinated in.
I really loved it. I regret not trying it sooner. Now I'm gonna spend the rest of my life eating more of it.
Quick to make and easy on the wallet, hot dogs are a fast way to a New Yorker's heart. Tons of spots cook them well, but one Coney Island icon stands high above the rest. This is Nathan's, and it's been serving New York's most legendary hot dogs since 1916.
This is the spot. This is the family spot when you come in the summer stuff.
Even in January, it doesn't matter, we would come to Nathan's.
We're here on Coney Island to visit Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs. Now I'm super excited because I'm a bit of a hot dog enthusiast. I even have a super cool hot dog tattoo. Now we're here in the off season, which personally for me is my favorite time to come to Coney Island, because hopefully it'll be a little bit less crowded and we can get an awesome sneak peek at what makes Nathan's so famous. Nathan's is iconic, if not the most iconic hot dog in America, if not the world. And one of the most recognizable things about Nathan's is the hot dog eating contest on the 4th of July. Correct. How did that get started?
Well, it's a funny story. You know, he wanted to publicize Nathan's. So you didn't have TV and radio in those days, in 1916. So he had to come up with a gimmick, and Nathan's was pretty smart. He says, you know what, I'm going to conduct a hot dog eating contest right in front of the store. So as people were walking by, he'd say, how many hot dogs can you eat? It was like a dozen people, and then they would eat, if they ate 12 hot dogs, it was a lot.
3, 2, 1, go! Today, crowds pack together closely in the peak heat of summer to see competitors like Joey Chestnut funnel 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes. But before Nathan's won over Coney Islanders, there was another go-to place for fresh franks. Legend has it that Feltman's, opened by German immigrant Charles Feltman, was the first to introduce the cheap beat to Coney Island in 1867. But about 50 years later, one of Feltman's employees found a way to do it better. Nathan Handworker left Feltman's to open his own hot dog stand on the corner of Surf and Stillwell Avenues, using his wife's secret recipe. He sold each frank for 5 cents, and customers loved it.
I'm from Brooklyn, not from here, but I used to bring my children to the beach. And they all come, Mommy, are we going to Nathan? Mommy, we're going. So I got 3 kids, so I had to spend a lot of money from all those years. So Nathan owed me a free hot dog.
Now, on a good day in the summer,
Yes,
how
sir.
many hot dogs do you think you guys are selling?
We sell anywhere between 4,000 to 10,000 hot dogs.
In one day?
In one day.
Wow.
The go-to order is an all-beef hot dog with deli mustard and sauerkraut, plus a side of salty crinkle-cut fries.
When you're eating the Nathan's hot dog, it's like a full-on experience. You've got the flavors and you've got the smells, but then you've got that like texture thing with the snap, where it just cracks in your mouth. It just tastes so fresh and unique.
I've been coming to Nathan's for 40 years.
And I've been coming for 60 years.
You can't drive through Brooklyn without going to Nathan's.
It's really the nucleus of the neighborhood. So Coney Island, it really in many ways is Nathan's, and Nathan's for many years was Coney Island. So what started as a small hot dog stand now encompasses an entire city block behind us. So it's hard to miss. It really is that tent pole to Coney Island.
Nathan's roots are deep in Coney Island, but its name is known across the world. The once small stand can now be found at 58,000 stores in over 10 different countries. And still, locals and tourists seek out the original.
We are from France. We hear Nathan's because it's the king of hot dog. It's excellent.
It's like quintessential New York. When you move to New York, you feel you don't fit in, and or you come to New York, it's very overwhelming, it's very loud, there's a lot of crazy sights, and there's something about just the New York hot dog that makes you feel like you're a part of it. So every time I come out here, I feel like I'm not just this kid from the Midwest, I'm a New Yorker now. It makes me feel like I fit in. This is what people have been eating here for 100 years.
This was my hangout when I was a teenager. I used to play hook and go with my girlfriend here.
Yeah, it's all about the history, it's the longevity, it's the community, it's the loyal customer base, almost like a cult that we have that follows us. Yeah. But that's what it's about. That's what made Nathan's famous.
I love it.
New York is home to plenty of notable steakhouses, but few can say they've served the likes of Teddy Roosevelt, Albert Einstein, and Babe Ruth. This century-old restaurant is full of fresh beef, but its most famous plate isn't steak. People seek it out instead for a dish of aged lamb called the mutton chop. This is Keen's Steakhouse, and it's been standing here since 1885. Keen's English Chop House originally spawned from the Lambs Club, a theater group dating back to the 1870s that still exists today. The restaurant became a meeting place for actors, playwrights, and publishers, and the go-to spot for a quality mutton chop. Mutton chops used to be a popular meal in American restaurants in the 1800s, inspired by menus at English chop houses in Europe. It's said that American soldiers ate mutton chops often during World War II, but had grown tired of the meat and its musky flavor upon returning to the US. So mutton fell out of favor, but Keen's continued serving it, and built a reputation as one of the only places to make the plate and do it well. In 1935, the Chop House had served its 1 millionth mutton chop.
Why do you think the mutton chop in particular, though, became so synonymous with this restaurant?
Well, I think that people also like to try something that's unique and that it's become a signature dish here because you don't see it on every menu. And so when they come, they try it, you know, and say, okay, that's great. And I can't even believe the size of it when it's put in front of them.
Each mutton chop is made up of a sheep's loins, tenderloins, and belly flap, and weighs about 1.5 pounds. It's just seasoned with salt and popped into the broiler for each side to brown, allowing the natural sugars in the meat to caramelize.
And about how many orders of these mutton chops do you guys do in a day or a week?
In a day, maybe 70, 80. In a week, hundreds and hundreds.
Chef Billy Rogers says customers who enjoy lamb will likely enjoy mutton too.
Would you describe this as a gamier meat or a gamier flavor?
You know, if you like lamb, you're going to love this. It is a cross-cut saddle of mature lamb or sheep. It's about a year plus in age. That's what makes it mutton as opposed to lamb.
If you've never had lamb particularly or mutton before especially, this is a fattier piece of meat. It's very easy to cut into, it's very easy to bite into, it's just very soft. It does not need salt, it does not need pepper. This is so juicy in itself, so flavorful on its own.
And of course, you can also get steak. The sirloin is another popular order at Keen's. But quality red meat isn't the only reason the steakhouse is considered an institution. The restaurant is host to one of the largest collections of clay pipes in the world. Back in the 17th century, it was an English tradition to check one's pipe before sitting down for a meal. And once finished, patrons would call for a pipe warden to return their pipes.
Who are some of those early famous faces that have had pipes here?
Well, I guess the earliest, Babe Ruth, Teddy Roosevelt, Will Rogers, it goes on and on.
The steakhouse's list of loyal customers has grown considerably since Babe Ruth visited.
It's legendary. It's one of the oldest establishments in Manhattan. So, so there's that history, and you feel it when you come in.
Stop in on a normal day, and you'll find tourists and longtime regulars alike.
This is my table.
This is a go-to.
Table 87. I come here and I say, I want my table.
How did you first hear about Keen's, or why did you start coming?
No, it's a New York institution. Yeah. You look around, the history, the pipes, the photos. It's the place to be.
People come from around the world, emails from around the world about how they'll be coming, where they're coming from. So really to be a destination for those people is a special thing, which we really try and live up to their expectations.
If you see everything, all of the photographs on the walls, you could just go back in time and realize that where you're sitting, where you're dining, where you're having a beautiful glass of wine is where so many decades of so many people have had the pleasure of enjoying it.
New Yorkers of all walks of life love a cheap, filling lunch of falafel, a deep-fried ball of mashed chickpeas, herbs, and spices. Today, you can get a falafel plate or sandwich at food carts and restaurants all over the city. But 50 years ago, there was only one spot in New York to try falafel, and that was Mamoun's.
This is probably the best falafel I've had in New York.
It's not easy to say, but it's true.
We came here because we knew that our trip wouldn't be complete without having some falafels here.
This is amazing.
Tucked in between the world-famous Comedy Cellar and Cafe Reggio, Mamoun's Falafel has been cooking up its falafel sandwiches since 1971.
It's a very traditional recipe, but it's done right. So it tastes really fresh, it tastes really good, and I think the falafel itself is the best in the city.
Family owned and operated since the beginning, the restaurant helped popularize falafel by serving musicians, actors, comedians, tourists, and loyal customers all on MacDougall Street for over 48 years. But how did Mamoun's go from a small hole-in-the-wall operation to a franchise with 10 locations? It all started in a cramped apartment kitchen of a struggling immigrant. Mamoun and Maria Chother immigrated to New York from Syria in 1969 and started refining his mother's falafel recipe after working at several restaurants to make ends meet.
Where my family comes from, in Syria, falafel's sort of like just regular sort of street food. It's almost taken for granted over there.
That's Jalal Chother. He's one of the 4 sons of Mamoun himself. Jalal and his brothers took over the falafel business in 1991.
We don't mess with the recipe at all. Like, where my dad left it is where it's going to stay because it's delicious.
In 1971, Mamoun opened his first storefront on MacDougall Street, the same location they occupy today, and served his falafel on makeshift tables with buckets as seats.
MacDougall Street's always been like a famous block. I mean, in the 50s you had the Beat movement and Jack Kerouac. In the 60s you had Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, all that. In the 70s, falafel came. So I think we added to the pantheon of what makes MacDougall Street both unique and special.
In the 1970s, a new wave of Syrian, Lebanese, and Arab immigrants came to the United States after the passage of the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act, which lifted post-World War II immigration quotas. With this wave came Mamoun Chother, founder of Mamoun's Falafel, as well as a larger Arab presence in the village.
You know, there were people who would speak Arabic out on the street, and my brother learned Arabic from working in the store. I learned it too. You know what I mean? My dad really believes in being a good host and really giving from the heart. And so when he would feed people, it was genuine, you know, and people would love that. But I think that's what started the buzz, really. You know what I mean? You gotta go see the Syrian guy who's like serving food, this awesome food out of a 200 square foot restaurant.
Word spread, and soon Mamoun's became known as a best cheap eat, and its falafel sandwich, famous.
The most popular menu item is by far a falafel sandwich. That's 2-to-1 ratio for everything else that we serve combined. It's simple, it's elegant, and it tastes fantastic.
Mamoun's falafel sandwiches are all vegetarian, made out of pita bread layered with hummus, their signature falafel, lettuce, tomatoes, and topped with tahini sauce. But before the falafel hit the counters at restaurants,
They start right here in Newark, New Jersey at their very own commissary. Let's take a look inside of Mamoun's Falafel's facility.
We have a 10,000 square foot facility here where we produce the falafel, the hummus, the baba ganoush, our main items. And we have processes in check to make sure that the quality and everything meets our standards.
Mamoun's legendary falafel recipe starts with parsley, lots and lots of parsley. It's mixed with chopped onions and garlic and combined with a carefully weighed batch of chickpeas, the key ingredient to falafel. The herbs and chickpeas are ground up, then get mixed with a special array of spices, including cumin, turmeric, and cardamom. This batter is then ground once more and finally pushed out into individual packets, which are boxed and ready for shipment.
What set our falafel apart, if you go to the Middle East, falafels are mostly chickpeas. They're not as green, and that's a comment we get from all of our Israeli customers or our Arabic customers. Oh, your falafel's so green. And that was the addition we did to the falafel market, where we added the extra herbs and spices here.
From the commissary, the falafel batter heads to one of 10 locations. While the batter is prepared off-site at the facility, the falafel are freshly fried at each restaurant, where lines of people await the savory and crispy taste of the Middle Eastern dish.
The falafel is probably one of the best I've ever had. Honestly, the consistency is great. It's nice and crispy on the outside, nice and moist on the inside, so a lot to love from it.
The hummus here is amazing. The falafel is perfectly fried. 100% recommendation.
With all the customers showering the food with compliments, I couldn't wait any longer and had to try the legendary falafel sandwich myself. So what I noticed what they were doing at Mamoun's Falafel is that they actually smashed down each of the pieces of falafel into the sandwich. So each bite that you're taking with this falafel sandwich will have a bit of the falafel. So you're not gonna be like duped by having just like a piece of pita bread and none of the falafel with it. So here I go. This is exactly what I wanted in a falafel sandwich. I usually don't like tomatoes, but the thing with Mamoun's I just noticed is that their tomatoes are really fresh and they just add more to the flavor of this falafel sandwich. And the falafel itself did not let me down. It actually has a really good consistency to it. Really, for $4, this is a great deal.
What makes this place special to me is I grew up here. You know, my brothers grew up here, and it was always a family sort of endeavor. We want to see how far we can sort of take the name, and that's really what's most important to us. Is just sort of making his name grow, and you know, spreading the food and the love across the country.
This is just a fraction of the 140,000 pizzas Grimaldi's makes every year. For the past 30 years, the Brooklyn-based pizzeria has stuck to classic recipes and kept a veteran team of pizzaiolos. Today, you'll find kitchen manager Tony Flugo and his team of pizzaiolos hand-stretching 500 pies a day, slicing 200 pounds of fresh mozzarella, and working a 1,000-degree oven.
It's a series of marathons for us because we have to make sure that we're prepared for the next shift, the next day, the next week to keep up with the demand at the door.
At 9 in the morning, Tony and his team get started making a 33-year-old dough recipe. The mixer is loaded with olive oil, New York City tap water, activated yeast, and 50 pounds of high-gluten flour.
So we have it preset for 5 minutes. It's on a low spin cycle, okay? And what we do is we sprinkle salt on top of our flour. Five minutes later, we have our famous dough recipe.
Once mixed, the dough needs to be cut, weighed, and shaped into balls within 30 minutes so it doesn't rise. For this, Tony relies on the most experienced pizzaiolos at Grimaldi's.
They're cutting each and everything to the same size every day. It's almost like muscle memory at this point where the scale's not even needed. You know, they know what they're doing, and it's almost like a healthy competition down here to race. Like, let's go, come on, keep up with me. I'm rolling. You gotta cut faster, let's go.
Another skill that's hard to master is rolling the perfect dough ball.
So we're rolling the dough and we're making sure that it's a smooth outer layer as well as making sure that there's no air inside. So for example, you know, if you're rolling it and you're just gonna meatball it and you're just gonna put it like this down, it's gonna rise and it's gonna thin out the middle. And then the pizza, when you pick it up, that's when it flops down. So Grimaldi is known for a nice hard layer crust that is the texture. It's the base. It's the most important thing to the pizza. It's, you know, the foundation to the house. No foundation, no pizza.
This batch of dough is enough to make 65 to 75 pizzas, which is just a fraction of what will be needed for the day. Once all of the trays are filled, they're taken across the hall to these fridges.
So this is only the dough that was made last night, okay? So this is getting ready for our first few hours in Grimaldi's, and then we'll start fresh, probably go through the first batch that we made today, and then as well as another 8 or 9 for the night shift.
In 2011, Grimaldi's moved into its current location. The double-story Palazzo building at number 1 Front Street was originally built to be Brooklyn's first safety deposit company. Now, Grimaldi's fridges sit in the same place as the old vaults.
So I think that's really cool that we made them into our own vaults. So basically it protects our gold, and this is our gold right here.
Next, it's time to make the sauce. Large cans of San Marzano tomatoes are poured into buckets, topped with sugar, and blended.
For us, we use a 1-day shelf life, so we're just trying to keep it marinating for a few hours, if not a full day, and it's going right onto our pizza. So we like to keep it as fresh as possible. It's nice, thick, and imported tomatoes.
Grimaldi's goes through about 700 quarts of tomatoes every week, or roughly 662.4 liters. Upstairs, 200 mozzarella balls are cut into thin strips, a process that's gone unchanged since opening.
The Grimaldi's cheese is very special. It's made only for Grimaldi's, so nowhere else in the world can get our flavor profile that we're doing on our mozzarella. It is a low moisture, low sodium, UV dried fresh mozzarella, so it can withstand the high intense heat of our oven and be cooked and melt to perfection in a short amount of time.
By the end of the week, Grimaldi's will hand slice around 2,000 pounds of mozzarella. An hour before opening, Grimaldi's restocks its coal so they can relight the oven.
Okay, so right now he's throwing 40-pound bags of anthracite coal into the bottom of our oven chute right over here. So we keep about anywhere from 10 to 12 bags down there at a time. And what we're doing is for at least a day or more, we try and dry out our coal to make sure that it's burning a little cleaner, easier. It's not popping from the inside, you know, on top of pizzas, etc. as it starts to heat up. It makes our stoking process and our oven heat up a little bit quicker too.
The pizzeria keeps embers in the brick oven overnight, so it stays warm.
So right now we have a grate inside of our oven. It's holding our coal up, but he's right now flipping it and getting rid of all the old coal. The reason why we don't clean it out at nighttime because we want to make sure that it stays warm overnight because it's going to take too many hours to heat up our floor.
When the charcoal ignites, the team begins shoveling 200 pounds of coal into the side of the oven. Compared to wood, anthracite coal burns longer, hotter, and with less smoke.
You can't get a gas oven or a wood oven up to 1,000 degrees the way we can. So we're able to get a different, not only flavor profile from the coal, but we're also getting a different profile from the heat and intensity that pizza is going under.
When the doors open at 11:30 a.m., it's all hands on deck to fill orders. To be an official Grimaldi's pie, it needs to be made a certain way. Unlike most pizzerias, Grimaldi's built its pizza cheese first. Slices of mozzarella are evenly placed around the dough, and the gaps are then filled with sauce.
So when it melts together, you're seeing a little bit of both, but you're also getting a bite of not too much sauce, not too much cheese. So that's what we're looking for with Grimaldi's.
Specialty toppings range from hand-pinched Italian sausage to thinly sliced prosciutto and artichokes. And most pies are finished off with a sprinkling of the Grimaldi's Romano blend, extra virgin olive oil, and a few pieces of fresh basil. To help streamline the cooking process, Grimaldi's uses a two-shelf system.
So we have a pre-stretch and then a stretching and cheese section on this side. We're pre-stretching cheese in, throwing them on the first shelf right here. Everyone standing on this side is a topper, so that means they're putting on the toppings, the sauce on, they're finishing it off with the olive oil, the basil, and then finishing it off by putting it on the top shelf. The top shelf is so the oven guy knows that they're ready to go in the oven.
Working a coal oven takes years of experience to master. From memorizing cook times to keeping a consistent heat, it's not easy to make a perfect pie.
So what we're doing is we're loading them in, we're closing the door right away, we're giving it a pop of heat to the bottom of the pizza so we can actually move it around without ripping it or anything like that. What's rare about Brooklyn is that we use this copper stick right here. You know, it's very important with this high heat. If you're using a wooden stick, they're just breaking and wearing and tearing and drying out nonstop, especially when you're picking up a heavy pizza. So you can see it's only been about 60 seconds and they're already rising up. So basically I'm making sure that I can pick them up, give them a small spin, and then I'm actually just moving them into position right here.
The high heat means that the pizzas only need a few minutes to cook. Water in the dough evaporates quickly, creating air bubbles and leaving behind a light, airy texture in the crust, while charcoal gives the pizza a charred, slightly smoky flavor and a crunchy texture. Outside, people begin queuing and waiting up to an hour to get a table. And 16 minutes after opening, the first and third stories of the restaurant are practically full. On the dining floor, you'll find servers with over 20 years of experience and a good sense of humor.
Oh, mommy, I'm hungry. Boom. You got it, Papa.
While Grimaldi's has an established clientele, a vast majority of its business comes from tour groups. Since 2005, Tony Muya, who runs pizza tours, has been coming to showcase Grimaldi's pizza.
So if I can describe Grimaldi's in 3 words, it would probably be legendary, authentic, and beloved, because people love Grimaldi's.
The key to making a great pizza is passion. It's love. You take dough, cheese, or sauce by itself, it's just simple objects. But when you're building a pizza, it's a piece of art. So for us, and for myself, it's the passion and love I put into every pizza that makes it special.
Chip makes one thing and they make it right: cookies.
Like 3 hours. You've been in line for 3 hours for cookies. Yeah, definitely worth it.
And with lines like this, it's no wonder it makes it onto basically every best of list in New York. Chip first opened its doors in the Astoria neighborhood of Queens in 2017, intending to be a small local bakery. But in the 2 years since, it's opened 3 Queens locations. Now it's finally opened its first brick and mortar in Manhattan, with lines literally stretching around the block. Chip cookies are born here, at the Warehouse Bakery in Queens, where bakers pump out 25,000 cookies each week, which are then shipped out to storefronts where they're baked fresh for serving. Chip cookies are defined by their gooey fillings. Today, the kitchen was churning out peanut butter and jelly for opening day, and I got to help. Each ingredient is meticulously weighed and mixed in these massive mixers, then scooped up with an oversized ice cream scoop one by one and filled.
This is one of our more difficult cookies to make because it is a peanut butter base with grape jelly in the center. So the first step is to take a nice hunk of dough and then flatten your scoop out completely. And then we're gonna take our thumb and we're gonna make a nice cavity right in the center.
That's 26-year-old Andrea Prunella, the mother of each and every chip flavor.
We thought it was gonna be a small cookie shop, just hanging out. Peter and Teddy are local historians, and they wanted to open a bakery that had huge cookies that wowed the customer. That's all they knew. They have no pastry background. They just knew they wanted to open up a great bakery. And I was like, these cookies are amazing. I just want to be part of your business. And I gave them my resume. I was like, I'll wash dishes if need be. They said, come, join us, be our pastry chef. And
wow.
We went from there. We've kind of grown it ever since.
That is why you knock on doors, people.
Yes, always.
So how did you come up with this process of making these like filled cookies?
When we created Chip, we wanted to reimagine what a cookie is. I usually start by trying to figure out some of the most popular flavors of my childhood and the childhood that, you know, the people around me experienced.
What was the first flavor you developed?
So I developed 4 in my first week. It was chocolate chip, s'mores, blueberry cheesecake, and peanut butter chocolate.
And how many flavors have you created since then?
We have about 35 now. Yeah, we have a lot of flavors.
So you're opening this store in the West Village where these cookies are going to.
Yes.
And it's your 4th store in 2 years.
We started out with our first store on 30th Avenue in Astoria, and we couldn't fulfill the demand. So we had to open up a second store, and then we couldn't fulfill the demand for the second store. And we've just kind of kept going, and our customers are so loyal and so passionate about the product that it's allowed us to continue to open more and more stores and grow very quickly.
I mean, I feel like people outside of New York don't necessarily know that there's, I think for us, a really big difference between Queens and Manhattan.
I think that we're going to find a clientele that expects a lot of us, and we're gonna have to meet that expectation every single time.
Picky clientele didn't seem to be a problem opening day, with lines stretching from the front door, around the corner, and down the street, with customers old and new.
My dad, like, he loves cookies, so he found the place and then he told me about it, and then we always go to Chip all the time.
And how important was it for you to be first in line?
100% important, like, it was a priority.
I would go to the Astoria and NYC locations, but now I'm in West Village a lot because I have a lot of favorite places here. This is now my my vice neighborhood because everything I want to eat is here.
I started following them on Instagram a while back. It was in Queens, the main location, so I wasn't able to go out there, and now it's here in the city. It's so good.
Can you tell me what it tastes like?
Heaven.
Okay, I'm so excited because after all of this time, all of this work, all of the waiting, I finally got my hands on some chip cookies, and I am just gonna dig straight in because I cannot wait any longer to try these. I am, of course, going to start with the peanut butter and jelly cookie because this is the one that I made with a little bit of Andrea's help in the bakery in Queens. Oh my God. I do not like things that are flavored like peanut butter and jelly. It doesn't even taste like a cookie, it just tastes like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the bread. It is so good. We cannot leave without trying the original cookie, the king of cookies, the OG, the GOAT, the chocolate chip cookie. It is literally the size of my hand. And it's also a lot cakier than I thought it was gonna be. I've never had a cookie that's this spongy before. I feel like if I don't hold it on the outside and if I hold it in the middle, my finger will go straight through it, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but we're gonna find out because I'm going to eat this now. You guys, there are so many chocolate chips in here that every single bite, my mouth is coated in milk chocolate to the point that I almost can't talk to you right now. It's crazy, it's delicious, it's gooey. It tastes like cake and a cookie. I am in love with this. I'm gonna keep eating it. I'll talk to you later.
If New Yorkers know anything, it's how to sniff out a good piece of smoked salmon. Ask anyone in the know, and they'll tell you this is the spot for the best smoked fish products in NYC.
I've got about 6 pounds of fish here because my friends and neighbors know I'm coming.
It's great fish. The servers are wonderful. This is the best smoked salmon, lox, fresh smoked fish in New York City.
Acme Smoked Fish is a 4th-generation, family-owned smoked fish company based in Brooklyn. You've probably seen Acme products in well-known markets like Whole Foods and Zabar's. But what you might not know is that they also sell anonymously to some of the most famous bagel shops and specialty stores in the city. Meaning, if you've ever ordered lox on your bagel in NYC, there's a decent chance it came from Acme.
You realize half New York City would not exist for smoked fish if it wasn't for this place.
The 100-year-old business produces about 15 million pounds of smoked fish products every year. To see how Acme makes its legendary products, I met up with Adam Kaslow, the company's 4th-generation co-CEO.
So gross.
Adam joined the business in 2006 along with his cousins and sister.
My great-grandfather became a smoked fish wagon jobber in 1906 and was just competing for that American dream. His dream was to one day open up his own smokehouse, and he did that at the very end of his career. Today, we're in the 4th generation of Acme, and so the 4 of us are keeping the family legacy alive and well.
Over the years, Acme has significantly expanded its inventory with products like whitefish salad and poke bowls. But there's one thing that really put them on the map. Their classic smoked Nova salmon. The salmon is expertly trimmed and scraped so that it can fully absorb the salt during the brining stage. It will brine for about 7 days before ultimately undergoing Acme's signature smoking process.
The origins of smoking fish are really around preserving food for a later date. So in Europe, people in the 1600s would salt their fish to keep it for extended periods of time. Now, the origins of smoked fish are a little bit up for debate, as some people say that as the fish were hanging out to dry, the smoke from the campfire gave it this added flavor, but it's unconfirmed.
It's a really nice story. We don't know if it's true, but it's a good story.
It's a good story. The salt gives it about a 30-day shelf life, and the smoke really adds that flavor. So this oven has been the original smoker that we've had at Acme since its existence. Back in the day, they would just light fires on the floor of the smokehouse.
That sounds very safe.
It was not safe. But the principles of smoking really haven't changed. We're gonna turn these fans on, they're gonna blow air throughout the oven, dry out the fish, and after about 3 to 4 hours, we'll turn on the smoker and fill this room with wood burn smoke.
After smoking, most products are packaged and shipped out to stores across the country. But some stuff is put aside for the best kept secret in NYC. Acme's legendary Fish Friday. Fish Friday is a weekly event where the public can buy Acme products at wholesale prices right out of the warehouse. Offerings range from typical fare you can buy in the store to weekly specials only available to Fish Friday attendees.
Fish Friday is an every week ritual for some, a special excursion for some, just a very cool underground Brooklyn happening. There's a mix of products here that you cannot find anywhere else, probably in the world. We have things that are exclusive just here that we come up with and we'll do just for 1 week. And you could also get all the classics. It's almost that treasure hunt atmosphere where you know you're going to get what you want, but you may get some other things that you don't need, and it's all going to be delicious.
The tradition began over 40 years ago, but has never been officially advertised. Even still, crowds show up week after week, full of hungry people lucky enough to be in the know.
I've been coming to Acme Fish Fridays for probably about 5 years. It's great fish, the servers are wonderful. It's a fun thing to do early on Friday morning.
Thank you so much. Hi. You too.
With my bounty in tow, it was time to see what all the fuss was about.
Messy but good.
Looks like Acme deserves its local cult following. And then some.
I don't realize how lucky we are to be able to produce a product that affects people emotionally in ways that few foods can. Each week we get different people from all over the tri-state area and even throughout the US who come and tell us about how smoked fish has played a part in their life, perhaps a memory with loved ones or a favorite brunch or mealtime with friends, and being part of that emotional connection with people's lives adds a level of meaning that makes a difference.
This massive amount of dough is about to be cut, folded, and rolled into 2,100 croissants. A small portion of the 21,000 croissants Colson Patisserie makes every week. But making perfect croissants on this scale is easier said than done. For executive chef Natalie Abrams, it's a constant race against time and changing temperatures.
If our dough is mixed incorrectly, if it's overmixed, if it's undermixed, if it's mixed too warm, if anything goes wrong, you see it immediately.
The day begins with making the dough. 5 gallons of milk and buckets of ice water are added into the mixer first.
And basically we adjust over the summer how much ice is going into that water. If it's in the dead of winter and the kitchen is freezing, then we maybe put the water a little bit warmer.
Keeping the dough cold is an essential part of slowing down the fermentation process. Next, an entire tray of wild sourdough starter is scraped into the mix.
It's wild yeast, basically. It helps our croissant grow a little bit bigger.
Finally, they add yeast.
And then we mix that around for a little bit to sort of combine, let everything start to bloom.
After a short spin, 250 pounds of flour is gradually added so it doesn't overwhelm the mixer and send flour into the air. They also add in a container of sugar and salt before continuing the mixing process.
And we mix, maybe for another 2-3 minutes.
So here we're just starting to wait for a little bit of gluten development, and then we start adding butter, since that's sort of a hydrating thing and it inhibits gluten development. So that's why we hold that till the end of the mix.
And lastly, dough scrap or pâte fermentée is combined.
This helps as a flavor enhancer because it has a more mature flavor, and it also helps with shelf life.
Once the dough has been properly mixed, the entire mixer is lifted, so Natalie can easily transfer portions of dough to the prep table.
After the mix, we start to try and slow down any warmth or fermentation that happens. So we try and take it as fast as possible out of the bowl into the freezer to really sort of put a pause on the fermentation process.
The mixed dough is then cut, weighed, and wrapped as quickly as possible.
It's important that the starter that's going in doesn't have much of a chance to do much, that the yeast going in is all going to save all of its energy for the final bake. And so that's why we want to try and work as quickly as possible with this process, so that way we can get it cold, cold, cold.
When all of the dough is wrapped, it's carted into a blast freezer.
The dough is going to stay in here for about 2 to 3 hours until it's pretty solid, until we really are sure that we've stopped that fermentation from the heat. And then we're going to move it into the fridge, where it is going to stay overnight to relax, let the flavor develop a little bit, and hydrate all of the dough.
In another room, workers begin unwrapping mountains of butter.
And we use a European style 83% Vermont butter. We love it in terms of taste. We've tasted a bunch of other stuff, but this for us has been the main ingredient for some of our biggest flavors. This will get us through about a day and a half worth of croissant production just for the actual sheets that we want to put inside.
All of this batter needs to be layered with dough, but instead of rolling it out into sheets, Colson uses a hydraulic press.
We get it to temp, then basically it goes into a hydraulic press, so it becomes pliable but not warm. We want the butter and the dough to be as even in temperature as possible, so that's why we have to basically use what we pressed out of the butter the same day, so that way we know that our temperature is close.
The relaxed dough is now ready to be stretched and layered with these sheets of butter in a process known as lamination. First, the dough needs to be stretched to the same thickness and width as the sheet of butter, so it can be completely folded over.
So basically here, we just take our butter that's like a little pliable, but not soft, and we're going to just make sure that all of the dough has a layer of butter. This is called the lock-in stage. And then after this, we begin putting in our series of folds.
After the folds, each sheet will have 24 layers of dough and butter, and it's these layers that will give the croissants their honeycomb interior and flaky texture when baked. But if the temperature is off at any stage, they risk losing the entire batch.
If you have butter that is too cold, then the butter shatters, and then you'll see little bits and pieces of butter throughout the dough and you won't have any layers. If you have dough that is too cold, it rips. If it's not laminated correctly, if the butter is broken, then it comes out with 50 or 60 croissants that we can't really use.
When the dough has been laminated, it's wrapped and stored in a proofer at 55 degrees for a few hours. At this temperature, the dough and butter remain pliable without fermenting, which is essential for the next step. Now it's time to stretch the laminated pieces of dough. For this step, the bakery uses an automatic sheeter that stretches and cuts the dough into triangles.
So we have about 7 kilos of dough here, which is about 14 pounds. Each one of those makes about 60 croissants. And so every day we're going through approximately 60 to 70 of these laminated pieces of dough.
So we have a specific program for all of our different croissants. It helps us maintain consistency. This passes through about 7 times. And then here we have some of the scrap dough coming off of the sides, and then all of our triangles are ready. Even though they're very close here to being super duper consistent, we still are weighing each piece that we make to make sure that we have everything coming out at exactly pretty much the same weight. We have about a 3-gram spread on all of our croissants, which means that all of our 3,000 croissants come out around the same size, the same shape, because croissants really show every single imperfection or perfection.
The triangles are then ready to be rolled into their crescent shape.
So after the dough has been weighed, we basically straighten out to make a nice straight triangle. We give it a little bump to give it a place to sort of live. And then we have a nice 1-2 motion where we basically put the croissant right in its home. So after that, it gets moved to the tray and we give it a nice little tap. You kind of have to tap all your croissants to show them that you love them.
The rolled croissants are then left to rest for another 8 to 10 hours and proofed for another 5 to 6 hours. But even at this step, slight changes in temperature can ruin the entire batch. Before the croissants are baked, Natalie gives each of them a squeeze to make sure they're proofed enough.
If it feels tight here, then we let them go for a little bit longer. If it feels pretty even, then we know that we're good to go on the proof. Some of them that you can see got a little close to the oven while they were proofing, and so we have a couple that the butter just started leaking out because they got a little too warm, but that's how sensitive these croissants are. Like, if it's a slight, like 6 inches too close to an oven, then it's probably just gonna have to go to staff meal, because you're gonna see it when it comes out, that it's gonna have sort of that butter underneath. That means there's less butter in the croissant.
Here, Natalie is finishing off each croissant with a coat of vegetable spray.
So it's like a vegetable protein that does a very nice job of still giving us that color and shine.
The loaded rack is then carted into this massive oven.
So this is our oven that's programmed with our croissants recipe. We have everything sort of set up for, again, maximum consistency on the bake. It can adjust the venting, it can adjust steam, and it can decrease our temperature as needed.
Inside, the oven can bake 360 croissants at a time.
And that raises, lifting the cart off the ground, and then once I hit start bake, it starts rotating this rack around for the most even bake possible. And sort of the hot air is coming out of convection vents that line this entire side. And so again, all of those are adjusted individually. I think there's about 200 or something to adjust for the perfect airflow to make sure that the bake from top to bottom on the oven is happening in a very even way.
After about 25 minutes, the baked croissants are taken out and left to cool.
So normally, you stand back when we open this, let the steam out a little bit.
If they're packed too soon, the center of the croissant will collapse.
If you're really paying attention, it shows you everything that's happened in terms of like all the attention to detail, all the technique that has gone into it.
While most of these croissants are headed to wholesale customers, Colson also sells some of his croissants at 2 cafes.
Our goal is really just to have all of these multitudes of customers who are walking into different shops across New York walk away with a pastry that they're happy with and that they find some joy in, and then make everybody's day a little better.
The croissants are to die for. They look just beautiful. They're art. They're a piece of art, first of all. But just the flakiness, how they crumble into your mouth.
They are so good.
And reactions like this are exactly what motivates Natalie.
You can have a really beautiful croissant, but if the flavor isn't there, then kind of what's the point? I would much rather
draw people in with flavor and have them keep coming back than have something that everybody buys once.
The Greeks call it gyro, the Arabs call it shawarma, the Spanish al pastor. All of these sliced meats can be traced back to the seat of the Ottoman Empire, which is now Turkey. There, it's called the doner kebab. And that's Swiss-born Turkish national and NBA player Enes Kanter. He took us to Abba, an authentic Turkish restaurant in New York City, to show us a dish that to him tastes like home.
I can eat this in breakfast, lunch, dinner, every day.
Kanter has been a longtime vocal opponent of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. After Kanter criticized Erdogan on Twitter in 2016, the Turkish government canceled his passport and put out an international warrant for his arrest.
The last time I went home was 2015. And it doesn't matter how much you love other kind of food, you still miss your home food.
Since he has no way of returning home anytime soon, Kanter looks to food, specifically kebab, to connect back to his Turkish culture.
I grew up eating it. I remember I usually eat it like 3-4 times a week. It's usually cooked in the streets and you see this big one chunk of meat that is turning and people are like, first time people will see that thing is like, what is this?
Doner kebab literally translates to rotating meat, and it is traditionally made of pieces of lamb or beef skewered on a spit and grilled vertically on a rotisserie. But that wasn't always the case.
The earliest description of doner kebab is by a Turkish traveler of the 17th century, but he doesn't call it that.
That's Priscilla Mary Ishin, a food historian who wrote a book on Ottoman cuisine. Ishin came across 2 miniature paintings dating back to 1616 that illustrated the doner kebab being eaten at a picnic. By the 1850s, Ottoman chefs had realized that turning the spit vertically would allow for fat to drip directly onto the meat, allowing for a tastier meal. It remained a small-town secret until the 1940s, when restaurateur Beatty Guler began serving doner to political leaders and celebrities in Istanbul. Now, variations of the doner kebab can be seen all over the world. The fact that it's cooked on a vertical rotisserie, it shows that it takes time to cook it and it's really inhaling the spices. Doner kebab starts off with meat and fat and lots of it. The most traditional doner kebab is made from lamb. The lamb meat is first thinly sliced horizontally. Various herbs and spices are soaked in milk to be then used as marinade for the meat. Afterwards, the slabs of seasoned meat are stacked in between layers and layers of fat. At Abba, the meat is also stacked in between slabs of ground lamb and beef. Once completely stacked onto the spit, excess meat is shaved off. The next morning, the kebab is cooked on a vertical rotisserie. As the meat spins, only the outer layer measuring an inch thick is actually cooked.
But the chef has to be so good because you have to slice it very thin.
Oh my God, this looks amazing.
It is, huh?
Is it teşekkür ederim?
There you go.
Okay.
So
Teşekkür ederim. Is the middle where you cut? The doner kebab?
Yes.
The doner kebab. There it is, guys.
Let's see how I cut it.
Oh yeah, let's see if you did a good job.
Yeah. I did an amazing job.
That one is the best.
Yes.
The doner kebab is the best.
Yes.
That's amazing. What does Turkish food mean to you now that you're in America and very far from home?
America being great to me. We've been definitely amazing, and people here was very respectful. I love the American food and everything, but this Turkish food still reminds me home. Every bite I take, it just reminds me of my mom, my dad, good old days, sitting around the table and just sharing and eating together and just give us stories, tell each other stories. So good. It's really, really good. Right now.
It tastes very seasoned and very smoky, and it feels like you're eating just fresh meat.
Wow, you love food, huh?
I love food.
Yeah, I can tell. It's just like the taste that you could never experience in any American food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really important to come and try it in a real Turkish restaurant.
Do you ever eat Turkish food after a game?
So my team ordered Turkish food for me And I remember eating in the locker room and everybody, all my teammates was like, what is this? Because some of my teammates never tried Turkish food ever. And for them to just go out there, just try the foods that I grew up with, I'm like, man, this is so awesome. But I've been to many Turkish restaurants, of course, all over America. This is definitely my favorite. I don't go just for the taste, I go more than that. I go for the memories and for my family.
Falling right off the bone.
Yeah, it's really soft. Yeah. So
Amazing.
I'm just, oh. Hey guys, this is Adam Saleh from YouTube. Do me gang, what is poppin'? And we're here in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. We're about to go to a Yemeni restaurant called Yemen Café. Meta, she's about to try Yemeni food for the first time ever. I'm really excited. Specifically, we're gonna eat the most popular Yemeni dish, lamb hanif. It takes 4 hours to cook and it falls straight off the bone.
Oh, so excited.
You ready?
Yes, let's
Sure?
do it. Yes.
Let's get it, come
Okay.
Well, it's a taste usually that they've never had. It's an explosion of spices in their mouths.
Lamb hanith is a traditional dish from Yemen that's slow roasted and typically served at lunchtime and at special events like weddings and feasts. It's popular in many Arab countries like Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia.
I've had it, I have it like every other day. Like imagine seeing lamb hanif every day, and I never ever got sick of it.
To make the lamb hanith, Yemen Café usually gets around 35 to 40 lambs delivered each week.
Usually get the lamb whole because we have our own specific way of cutting it.
Oh my God, yo.
By tomorrow, these are all, it'll be empty.
Wow.
But this is the perfect size to make sure that the meat is tender. Anything above this, it's not gonna be as tender. The lamb, it's one of the most fattiest piece of meat out there. That's why we take our time usually just like shredding all that fat as much as possible. This is how they've been doing it. They've been cutting the lamb for the past 30 years since they opened up in 1986. This is probably the most famous part right now. Right there, that's the lamb shank. That is the most tender piece in the lamb. It's very fatty. It's something that everybody usually asks for. So a lot of the customers, they specifically want certain pieces. Like me personally, I don't like the lamb shank because it's too soft for me. I like something more like the neck area or the ribs. Paprika, cumin, curry, and black pepper and salt. Those are the spices that we usually use, but actually those spices, we get them all imported. And actually, that's Pakistani. What? That paprika comes from Pakistan. And due to Yemen having the situation with the war and the borders being closed, the closest thing that we could get to it is the Pakistani spices. So, you know, when you're a Yemeni restaurant and you're purchasing your stuff from another country, it's, you know, you'd rather be authentic, you know what I mean? But we just can't do that because the borders are just like shut down. And it's just a mess. What he's doing right now is usually he'll keep that thick meat on the bottom so it doesn't burn on top. So he's flipping it around to make sure that the fatty pieces and the bones are on top, and that's our secret. And this is how we cook it. Usually this hard top is what keeps it very moist. This takes about 4 hours to cook, and this is the famous roasted lamb.
Amazing.
Wow, yo, oh my, this is heaven.
We let it sit the last hour, and it cooks with the steam. And that's what gives it that, you know, fall off the bone type.
Secret, you can't give the secret to me.
I know, I'm revealing a lot now. What am I doing?
Once the meat is ready, the dish is served with basmati rice or Yemeni bread called malouah and is usually shared in a family-style manner.
The traditional way, you eat it with your hands. Even the rice, you eat it with your hands.
Okay, I want to see how you do it.
So you gotta grab the lamb hanif from the bone.
Okay.
Yeah? Just grab it, just dig it, grab it, and you just bite it, yeah.
I think I'm gonna, what do you think?
MashaAllah, oh my God. Oh my God.
So good?
It's the softest ever, you need to try it.
Okay, I'm trying it.
It's so soft. What you think?
This is amazing.
For real. You like it?
For real.
It's good, right? And if you wanna,
It's so soft.
you can mix it with the rice.
Yeah.
You can go like this.
What do you do?
Put it with the rice.
Okay.
And then that's how we eat it.
Oh my
And
God.
then you put it together and you so damn good. Oh my God. Just really the softest meat you'll ever have. like so different than any other type of meat. It gets messy, but
It gets really
that's how Yemenis eat. Usually at home, we'll eat on the floor.
Oh, really?
But whenever we eat lamb hanif, the whole family just comes running in and just everyone digs in from the same plate. Some people, they even put the soup just a little bit on it.
I
if
would
you
do
want.
that. The
yeah,
soup
just,
is so good.
Yeah. The only thing is just, it makes your hand messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. With the stuff that's going on in Yemen, it's the largest humanitarian crisis. And it's sad because we can't even go back to our country because of so much violence going on. You know, even though we're here in America eating Yemeni food, it will never be the same as eating it in Yemen. So that's why having Yemeni food in America, Yemen Café, meant a lot to me and the Yemeni people because we're always so prideful and so happy when something Yemeni goes big.
This is a black and white cookie, topped with dark chocolate icing on one half and vanilla on the other. It's a classic dessert that is only made right here on the East Coast. If you grew up in New York, chances are you've seen black and white cookies at shops dotted across the state. Today, we visit Zaro's Bakery, a company that ships its cookies nationwide, to get a behind-the-scenes look at the making process. Bakeries like Zaro's can sell 100,000 cookies each year. While recipes may vary from shop to shop, the cookies are always slathered with rich chocolate icing on one side and vanilla on the other. Here in New York City, you're likely to find a flatter, denser, vanilla cake-like cookie with a smooth, shiny fondant icing. Meanwhile, in upstate New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, don't even think about calling them black and whites. The cookies here are the half-moon variety. And although these cookies have made quite the footprint, it's the New York City style that's made its claim to fame.
Grabbed a couple of black and whites.
And a black and white cookie for me.
The recipe is simple. It starts off with ingredients like oil, eggs, and lots of sour cream.
We use sour cream. It helps to tenderize the cookie and keep it moist and soft, and it also gives it a little bit of sour flavor.
Is the purpose of the sour cream also to make it that sponge-like texture?
Yes, it will. It helps. It certainly helps with the texture. Doing great.
Good. Okay, we did it. It's messy and fun. Next comes the whole milk.
We're adding milk, again, more fat, keeping it creamy, keeping the cookie soft, and helping to maintain that cakey texture.
The dry ingredients consist of baking soda, baking powder, salt, and natural vanilla flavor. But the key to black and whites is to add enough flour so the batter holds shape. What ingredients in this make it more like a cake consistency versus a cookie consistency?
Well, we use a combination of AP flour and cake flour. Up next is going to be 40 pounds of sugar. The sour cream is a big one. We do use honey, but those are the ingredients that we use to really keep it moist and fluffy like cake.
Why honey?
It's something we've used honey for a long time. Honey does help cake and cookies to retain moisture better than just regular sugar will.
It smells really good.
This mixer it's got to be 50 years old at least, and it's one of these machines that they don't make them like this anymore. For some reason, when we've tried to mix our black and whites in some of the other mixers, we've not gotten the result we like.
And what's that result?
A soft, airy, well-mixed, beautiful cookie.
As soon as the flour mixture is complete and has 0 clumps, bakers move on to the making of the fondant.
It's icing sugar and water for the most part. And then the chocolate is icing sugar, water, and cocoa powder for color and chocolate flavor. There are some slightly different ingredients within the icing sugar that help it to set up. We've used the fondant as long as I've been alive. Our great-grandfather decided that was how he was making them. I do think it was more of a New York City, East Coast way to make the cookie. Maybe New Yorkers don't have time to carry around a black and white cookie with buttercream on top. It would make too big of a mess. It could be.
All right, do you need help?
I would love some help.
Ugh,
Yeah. It's about 50 pounds.
it's a little smoky.
So we are going to mix the icing sugar for about 4 minutes at a very low speed to beat out any lumps and make sure it's nice and smooth and ready to take liquid. I am setting up another timer now for 4 minutes. And on that 4 minutes, we are going to pour the water through the grate into here as it mixes slowly on first speed. It's getting there. You can see in the center, see how it's starting to get shiny?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for throughout.
And so if it was a chocolate fondant, you would
Yes.
put cocoa powder as the last step?
Correct. You get a different flavor, but they're the same base.
What do you prefer?
Chocolate.
Yeah,
All
me
the
too.
way.
Me too.
I'm a chocolate lover.
It kind of has a sticky texture to it.
It does. It will be very sticky. It will have a stringiness to it. We're looking to get a very nice coating where you're not seeing the bottom of the cookie.
And how long did this process take your great-grandfather to develop?
When he came from Poland as a trained baker. So somebody in Poland trained him and taught him how to bake.
Once the icing is at its optimal thickness, bakers store the icing at ambient temperature in small buckets.
It's naturally cool at this point. We keep it at room temperature. The ambient around here stays at about 68 degrees. We make about 400 pounds. Well, sadly, during the times of the pandemic, we're making about 100 pounds a week. Before the pandemic, we were probably making 500 pounds of icing a week.
This is fun.
So you can see the consistency, right?
Yeah, it's very nice. It looks like frosting, but you can tell that if it stayed on a cookie, it has more of a sticky consistency.
The longer we wait to do this, the harder it will get to get out of this bucket.
How long can the fondant last?
It can last a couple of weeks. It's basically just sugar and water, so it can sit out.
Oh my God, it's... All these things are much harder than they look.
Yes, it's
I
very
swear.
true. I'm sure at every place you go, they usually are.
Yeah,
There you go.
it looks heavenly to eat. And it does have a thicker consistency than frosting, and it's definitely stickier.
This just came out of the mixing bowl. And as you saw when we were pulling it out, it was still pretty viscous and liquid. It had flow to it. You could see the flow is now stopping, and it's starting to solidify.
Oh yeah.
And this will it will never get hard, but it will get to a point where it's set up and dry, and you could touch it and it won't leave fingerprints, it won't leave marks. And then underneath, you'll have a little bit of kind of more tender icing underneath. And so that's why it's time sensitive to get it out of the bowl, because if we left it in the bowl, from the top down, it will continue, wherever's in the air, it will continue to harden.
Okay, so we are making the chocolate icing, and I can already smell the cocoa. Can you talk about the chocolate fondant? Anything special? Oh my God.
My desire to bathe in it, is that acceptable to say on television
Yes.
or no? What we're doing right now is warming the fondant so that we can manageably spread it. Because the longer you wait, that same setup process will happen again. So it will cool down, it will get harder, and then you'll get inconsistent spread on each cookie. You know, full transparency, I'm not good at this.
That's okay.
But what the basics of it are is we're gonna scoop up some fondant.
Yeah.
You're gonna wipe it across this way. You're then gonna come back this way toward you to get a nice clean line. You wanna get a good line right down the center. And then you go back one more time and you clean the edge. It's really important. We put the white fondant on first.
Why?
And we let the white fondant go on, it sets up. And the reason we do it is so that you get a really nice clean line. If you try and put them on at the same time, this line tends to bleed.
And I only get a little bit, right?
That's perfect. Okay, so you can go, that's fine, go toward you. Okay, now keep it the same way and then go away from you again.
Like this?
And you want to spread out to like here if you can. Yeah. Hey, go back one more toward you and spread a little further that way. Not bad. Spread there a little.
It's too
That's
thick.
not bad. No, hey, for your first time, it's pretty good. I'm very impressed.
Thank you so much.
Very impressed.
There you go. Why is it important to frost the bottom of the cookie?
The cookies bake this way, so they get deposited. And almost like a cake, you get this little kind of crown on top of them. That's how they bake. You just don't get that really pretty edge and that beautiful separation between the two. It's much harder on the round side of the cookie. We believe in the tradition of this, and we like doing them by hand.
The vanilla fondant has hardened, and now we're adding the chocolate, and it's a little bit more of a test because we got to get that perfect line. I think that line is solid.
Yeah, but see, there's a little too much on, but that's okay. It's going to taste really good. All right, so go for it.
Do you want me to do this one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. If you were to bake all this again, what part of the process would you enjoy the most?
I would go with the eating part.
I never heard of black and white cookies prior to coming to New York.
Where did you grow up?
I live in Midwest, like
Okay.
Chicago.
That makes sense.
But I read online somewhere that the Midwesterners call them Harlequins.
Really?
Yeah. And then do you know of the German version of this? The Amerikaners?
Yes, I have read about them, and it's very similar.
Yeah, it was brought over there with the soldiers during World War II, and they brought over this cookie, and so the German soldiers were like, oh, it's the Amerikaner cookie.
Our family lore is that our great-grandfather had a customer who'd come in with two small children who couldn't afford to buy two cookies. One liked vanilla, one liked chocolate. My great-grandfather started doing icing 1/2 vanilla and 1/2 chocolate.
Your brother actually was telling us everyone has a different story on how they eat the cookie.
Yes. I generally take mine, and if I'm gonna eat the whole cookie, I'll kind of work from here, as I prefer the chocolate. If I'm sharing the cookie, I usually break off the vanilla and give it to somebody else, and I eat the chocolate. Like my wife loves the vanilla, and I like the chocolate, and so we're a good black and white pairing.
Here's how a roasted pork bun is made. It's one of the many treats you can find at a Chinese bakery. New York City has dozens, if not hundreds, of Chinese bakeries. But the most legendary one is this place, Fei Da Bakery. Fei Da Bakery has been around since 1991. Today, one store can sell 2,000 buns per day and up to 200 birthday cakes each week.
他们很多人都愿意来这里坐，所以我看到的每天生意都非常的兴隆，特别是星期六、星期天根本没有座位。
Chinese bakeries are some of the best cheap eats in New York City, and Fei Da is no exception. This whole tray of breads and pastries costs about $10.
Chinese bakeries, we're all about the soft buns rather than your typical French or Italian, as well as all the different kind of fillings, like red bean, roast pork bun, egg custards. So it's just a very different kind of bakery compared to a French or Italian bakery.
One of the most popular breads Fei Da makes is the roasted pork bun.
Everything's made from scratch, from the sauce, to roasting the pork itself. Once the actual chashu roast pork is made, it's loaded into our hopper and then basically it feeds the dough. Our machines automatically fill the buns in, kind of rolls it, and then it cuts it, places it on each sheet, and then pops in the oven.
So the pork is cooked so well that it almost melts in your mouth. It's like a meal packed inside a bun.
Customers come for the fresh bread. They know that we bake it every single day. We for sure bake everything the day of. They come for breakfast, and then you have people always come later in the afternoon to get birthday cakes, even quick snack. And not only does it taste good, but it's a very reasonably priced.
But for many customers, Fei Da isn't just a place to get a quick, inexpensive snack, but a daily ritual.
I've been coming here like 6-7 years, and every day I really trying to stop by to get the fresh coffee.
经常过来有很多这样的客人，都觉得这里好像自己的家一样，感到非常的温馨。除了吃面包、喝咖啡、聊聊天以外，也觉得每天这样很开心。
Fei Da was so popular that the founder opened a second store just 9 months after he opened the first one.
知名度出来是天天要排队，有时候甚至于是每个人只能先买几个面包。
Today, Fei Da has grown to 13 locations, 12 in New York City and 1 in Connecticut. But the recipes remain the same as the ones used when it first opened in 1991.
其实我们走的就是一个传统，我们的东西都是很坚持传统的东西在做，不做那些很多东西都是说需要添加这些东西的，但我们绝对是不做的。
And if you're looking to get that quintessential Chinese bakery treat, look no further than the pineapple bun. Flour, sugar, milk, salt, eggs, and lard are mixed together to make the bread's topping. After the dough is proofed to right size, each topping is sliced and flattened onto each bread. Then the buns are finished with an egg wash before being put into the oven. You may have noticed there are no pineapples in this recipe. The name pineapple bun comes from its appearance, which resembles, you've guessed it, a pineapple. So it's a really simple bread because it's just flour and sugar on top of a soft bun, and it just gives it a little bit of a crispy, flaky flavor. And definitely try the ones with red bean or custard inside them because that's an extra dimension of flavor. Unsurprisingly, the classics are still the most popular breads sold. But don't let that stop you from trying other favorites such as the sesame ball, pork floss bun, and the matcha cheesecake. With its large selection of fresh, inexpensive breads, one can't help but pop into one of Feida's many stores for a quick bite.
Known around the world as the Dosa Man, Thiru Kumar makes the best dosas in New York City. Starting around noon, Mondays through Saturdays, you'll find a line of New Yorkers and tourists waiting for these world-famous dosas in Washington Square Park.
I'm coming from Calcutta, India. I'm a tourist, and I made a point to travel around 8 stations just to have these dosas.
I'm from Singapore, visiting New York. We checked out when he's open and we're like, okay, we leave after we try his dosas.
Between his loyal fans and ongoing 18 years of success, Thiru has garnered fan clubs in Japan and California. He's also listed in 42 different guidebooks about visiting NYC and has been profiled in countless publications.
My purpose is like, I wanted to have a quality food for everybody, like even poor people, rich people, everybody to have under $10 good healthy vegan food.
Hey guys, it's Carly.
Hi, I'm Mida.
And we are here in Washington Square Park ready to try out some famous dosas. And I myself have never had a dosa.
I've had a couple of dosas in the past, but I've never had it in street form, so I'm really excited to try this out.
All right, well, let's do it.
But first, we wanted to learn what goes into making these famous dosas. The batter, which is made up of fermented rice and lentil, is formed into a circle on the grill and topped with a hot chutney. Up next, Thiru customizes the dosa to your liking. His most popular dosa, the number 2 special pondicherry, is made with potatoes in a vegetable mix and served with a cup of sambar, which is a lentil-based vegetable soup and a side of coconut chutney. The samosa dosa features a chopped up samosa for extra crunch. We opted for the masala dosa, which is loaded with potatoes cooked with a masala mix.
We got our dosas and we are super excited to try it out. What are you expecting, Carly?
So I've never had a dosa. I'm expecting a lot of spice, which I'm very excited for. I've been eyeing those potatoes all day, so I am ready to bite into these.
It's so crispy.
Oh, and that spice, you can just feel it growing and growing.
This can totally fill you up for like a good, nice lunch.
Eating in Washington Square Park, it's amazing.
I read about Thiru a few months ago. There have been videos, articles, he's won awards, he has fan clubs all over the world. I wanted to know what the hype was about, and I'm here to say it lives up to the hype.
I definitely understand why so many people are lined up every single day in the park just to have Thiru's dosas.
Though he's the only one doing the cooking, Thiru often gets assistance from friends and volunteers.
Most of them, like NYU students in between class, they come and help me, and workers around the neighborhood.
Besides dosas, Thiru also offers items like uttapam with veggies and a jaffna lunch with 4 small pancakes. Thiru usually sells out by 3 or 4 p.m. But customers both old and new will tell you that this food is definitely worth the wait.
This food is freaking amazing. Like, you could serve this in like a, I don't know, however many stars restaurant, and he just makes it out here. Like, the food just speaks for itself.
So I find that really special here, to be able to get Indian street food. I think India has some of the best street food. And New York's known for all the kebabs and hot dogs and all that stuff. But yeah, this is really special.
This is just exactly what we get in India. And these dosas are awesome. And it should be a must-have in New York.
On Arthur Avenue, also known as New York City's real Little Italy, you'll find the appropriately nicknamed King of Mozzarella, who, accompanied by his son, churns out the best mozzarella and Italian deli sandwiches this side of the Atlantic.
Been coming here for about 20 years, and it's the best Italian food on Arthur Avenue. Best mozzarella I've had. You can go across the country, you can go across the world. There's not better mozzarella than this place.
Walking into Casa Della Mozzarella, you're instantly transported to Italy. The narrow shop is full of dried pastas, hanging deli meats, and, of course, lots and lots of mozzarella, which the owner and his son make from scratch every single day. With countless awards and media coverage, Orazio Carciotto and his son Carlo are now local celebrities. But they didn't start out that way.
The story just is incredible if you think about it. I call it the American success story, the American dream. He came here from Sicily. He was about 27 years old. My mother said, if you want to marry me, you have to move to this country. He came here with no English, and slowly and surely, he built his name through sacrifice, through hard work, sweat.
No, I did it little by little, everything. Nobody, I can say in front of God, nobody helped him or nothing. Nobody give me one penny. So they make you feel like proud, not even proud of myself.
Yeah.
In the first years after he moved to America, Orazio worked odd jobs, ultimately ending up here. When the shop's original owner wanted to retire, he helped Orazio buy the business. It officially became Casa Della Mozzarella in 1993, and the family's success has skyrocketed since then, thanks mostly to the fact that their mozzarella is really, really good.
If you want to classify yourself for mozzarella man, you have to know everything about mozzarella. Start it from the beginning.
To me, mozzarella is like art. I find food is art, of course, in general. But for me, we started with a blank canvas, as you saw. We started from just a box of curd, and then we blended it, we molded it, and then we just formed different things. And as you see throughout the process, we'll form different shapes. We'll do bocconcini, as we're doing right now, knotting it. We'll do mozzarella, we'll stuff things with prosciutto or the typical famous burrata that's been so famous lately. It's so simple, but yet it's not.
One of the reasons they're so successful is pure dedication. In the early days, Orazio made everything himself, working non-stop to ensure his products were of consistent quality. Now that Carlo is around, he's finally able to take a small step back.
How's it looking? Is he doing a good job?
Very good.
I learned from the best, I guess. I don't know if I surpassed him yet, but we'll see in a couple of years. Now remember when I said that to me mozzarella is an art, because look how we just started. We started with a canvas of curd, and now we have a finished product.
While everything starts out the same, the finished product could be one of several things.
Prosciutto mozzarella, scamozza, bocconcini, burrata, and last but not least, the Triskel fior di latte mozzarella. And here at Casa Mozzarella, we have a motto that goes like this. It's just different. Just different. That's why I say it's just different. We want to keep it just different. It's just different. Make sure you remember that.
Obviously, we had to put it to the test.
One, two, three. Wow.
Spencer, honestly, it's just different, I think, right? What do you think?
It's just different.
It's just different. At Casa Mozzarella, that's how we do it over here.
It's just different. Can I have another one?
Do you have any words, Ben?
Yo, it is just different.
I told you, right? Cheers.
Cheers.
Salud.
Salud.
It really was just different. And if the mozzarella was that good on its own, I couldn't leave without trying it on one of the shop's signature sandwiches.
What are your most popular sandwiches here?
The most popular sandwich, boys, what would you say? The Casa?
The Casa.
The Casa for sure, which is mozzarella, prosciutto di Parma, sun-dried peppers, and a little bit of balsamic glaze. It's kind of like if you go to McDonald's. The Big Mac is the way to go.
There you go, your Casa sandwich.
Oh, thank you.
Very much.
Thanks. We're gonna do this like real New Yorkers and eat it right on the street, because that's how we do here. Mmm. Mmm. Oh yeah. That is exactly what you want in a sandwich. The mozzarella on there obviously is the main event. I mean, that's why we're here today. And it definitely is what you taste the most in a sandwich, but for whatever reason, it's not overpowering. It's creamy, it's light. And then of course you get a little bit of that sweetness from those sun-dried peppers in there, which really just kind of brings it all together. It's like this, a little salty from the meat, creamy from the mozzarella, and then a little sweet from those peppers, all wrapped up into this beautiful bread. I could eat this every day.
The cheese is incredible. The prosciutto is really great. The sandwiches are huge. They keep you full the whole day. Just feels really authentic. Like feels like I could be in Italy right now.
So if you work hard, believe me, you will reach the place you want to reach. Yeah, I come every day, get up every morning for 30 in the morning, I'm happy to go to work. I can do now, I can take it easy. I got him, I got other people that work with me for Falafel, I can trust them. It's my routine.
This, to me, represents what this city can do. A man comes here from another country with a dream, creates the dream, passes it down to his son. I always said to myself, there's two main things in life. Make yourself proud, make your parents proud. And when I go outside, that for me, the biggest accomplishment would be people will say, hey, Carlo, how are you? Doing good. Look, remind me just of your father. And I don't think I can have more accomplishment than that. I could say.
This is the best barbecue in New York City.
Hi guys, so today we are at Hometown Barbecue. It's probably one of the best, if not the best barbecue place in New York. I don't know much about barbecue myself, but we do have an in-house expert.
I'm in from LA, and I'm so excited you asked me to come today because Hometown is one of my favorite spots. I've been here before. It's the best barbecue in New York, I think, like hands down. We're gonna eat brisket, we're gonna eat ribs, we're gonna eat lamb belly, we're gonna eat other stuff.
Collard greens,
mac and cheese.
It's just the works.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped.
I know.
Let's
Let's eat. Let's go.
Onwards!
My name is Billy Derny. I'm the owner and head fire tender here at Hometown Barbecue. They call everybody in our community pit masters, and I said it was the most ridiculous thing in the world because I'm 46 years old and I haven't mastered anything.
Despite Billy's humbleness, it's clear that his customers appreciate his craft.
How long have you been waiting here for?
We got here super early. We knew the line was going to be pretty bad, and the anticipation is pretty good now at this point.
From this door here, it's about 45 minutes, so good luck to everyone.
Customers can wait up to 2 hours just to order.
I come here every week. We're regulars here. It's the best barbecue I've ever had. Billy is a great guy. He comes over to your table, he shake your hand, ask you how you're doing. Billy's a mensch.
So before getting into barbecue, I was a partner in a private protection firm, Hollywood Celebrities. It was a 45-mile drive from Austin to a small town called Taylor, Texas, to a place called Louis Mueller Barbecue that changed my life forever. I walked in and said, somehow I'm gonna do that for a living. Now we get to serve 5,000 people a week here. What sets Hometown apart to a lot of barbecue restaurants around the world is the fact that we really have no rules. I'm a kid that on the streets of Brooklyn. So all those people and all those smells and sights and sounds of my youth are represented on our menu at Hometown. If I took the Korean sticky ribs off the menu, I might not get any more customers here. My favorite sandwich is the banh mi.
Oh, that's so good.
I'd say it's tender.
Life doesn't suck. I just drooled.
Are you eating over the trash can?
It's not my good.
I'm never trying to duplicate what they're doing in the country. It's just those flavors, they're my interpretation.
Even though Billy's unconventional barbecue dishes are crowd favorites, his classic barbecue items are equally as popular.
The brisket is an homage to Louis Mueller, it's an homage to Texas.
Billy trims meats like brisket, ribs, and pork butt, then seasons them simply with salt and pepper. In a smoker fueled with white oak, the meat can cook anywhere from 5 to 16 hours. In order to get a sense of Billy's barbecue, we decided to order a little bit of everything, like the lamb belly banh mi, ribs, and brisket, honey butter cornbread, and queso mac and cheese.
The moment you come in here, the smokiness already hits you from like a block away. What's calling you the most?
I mean, the brisket's the thing that's, I think, the hardest to make and therefore the most delicious in my opinion. But this banh mi, I mean, we had a little sneaky bite in the kitchen and holy...
More than a few.
Yeah. Are you ready for some brisket?
I am ready for everything.
You want fat? You want some fat?
I want some fat.
Yeah, you want some fat. There you go. But you need a little bit of like the bark, like the outside is called the bark. Like, so you need some of that as well. Do you need help? Do you need mother to cut your meat for you?
Let's do it. Oh. Oh.
You can't get this everywhere. You really cannot get this everywhere. I've done a lot of videos. I've been to a lot of barbecue joints, and nobody else does this in New York. This is something else.
What do you think sets it apart?
I mean, it's not dry. And like, let's be real, like we're shooting a video. We've been like, you know, messing around, playing with our food. It's still so moist and there's the right amount of fat. The bark is salty, a little sweet. Like everything they do here is phenomenal and so well done, and there's so much care and effort put into it. This is what happens when you don't take shortcuts and you do it the proper way. Should we eat a rib?
I've been waiting for you to say that. Let's do it.
All right. Oh my God. It's sweet, it's tender, it's fatty. The fat's the best part. Truly. Got a little bird over here next to me.
While Sydney is trying to teach us all of these things about barbecue, I feel like I've just been alongside her, just pecking away at the food, because as much as I want to learn, I can't stop eating.
She doesn't want to learn. She doesn't want to learn anything.
I just want to eat.
Do you want some of this? I'll share it with you. This is America.
That is actually a really good way of putting it. Yeah. It's queso, pimento cheese, and mac and cheese all fused together into this one cup. I could eat a tub of this.
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
Cool.
let's get a bite of this honey butter cornbread.
The cornbread looks to die for. Look at that sheen, the glisten, the shine.
Oh my God. I've never had cornbread like that.
This is like cake. This is cornbread cake.
I love how the honey butter actually is like all the way drenched through.
Yeah, it's like tres leches, but instead of sweet condensed milk, it's honey.
Even the sides are just legendary.
They give you a bowl of cornbread.
It's so easy to get distracted because everything on this plate is just so good.
So we're here at Hometown to talk about how it's the best barbecue in Brooklyn. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I want to say that this may be the best barbecue, not only in Brooklyn. I haven't had a lot of barbecue just growing up, but within the small sample pool of barbecue places that I've been to, I think this is the best.
This ranks pretty high up there. It's pretty delicious. And I've like, whenever I go to somewhere in like Texas or something like that, I've been to Missouri, Kansas City, everybody knows Billy. Like literally everybody knows him. And they're like, he's the man. He knows what's up.
I think it's also a pretty incredible feat that a man from Brooklyn, New York is one of the most revered barbecue experts, pitmasters in the country.
Yeah.
Like you would expect, I would have never expected a New Yorker to make this plate.
Absolutely not. Never in a million years. When I first heard about him, I assumed he was the guy that like moved here from Texas to like bring barbecue to New York, you know? But he's from New York, so kudos to him, man. He did it. Best barbecue in New York?
Best barbecue in New York.
Chef Missy Robbins has 2 Michelin stars under her belt. After the success of her first solo venture, Lilia, an Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, she recently opened Misi, pronounced like her name, but spelled differently. Robbins initially learned the art of pasta making while living in Italy, but today it's New Yorkers who are clamoring for a table at her Brooklyn restaurants. My friend Josh Beckerman, aka the Foodie Magician, is a famous food Instagrammer / magician, and I knew he was just the guy to get me in at Misi. Hey guys, it's Allie from Insider.
And it's Josh Beckerman, the Foodie Magician. And Allie, I wanted to take you today to one of my favorite restaurants in all New York, and probably America, Misi.
All right.
Let's do it. Misi, do you know Allie? Well, I told Allie this is my favorite pasta restaurant in America.
I've never been here before. I've been to Lilia. I love it, so I'm dying to try.
Why haven't you been here?
Because it's a really hard table to get.
Yeah.
Well, you know people. We can help you with that.
Now I know people.
We can help you with that.
I'm dying to look around and see how the magic happens.
All right, great. Where do you want to start?
Pasta room?
Yes.
The pasta room is where Missy and her team make 10 different kinds of pasta each day. The walls are windowed so that both diners in the restaurant and people walking by on the street can see how the famous pasta is made.
So these are the oki. What she's done is she's sheeted out 2 sheets of pasta, and we have the filling here, which is a combo of sheep's milk ricotta and cow's milk ricotta, and she pipes all along and then covers the second sheet, and then just punches them out with a little ring here. Apparently, there's some people saying I made up the shape. It's not true.
Well, you know what I would call that shape? A circle. But that's just me. I don't know if you actually did.
Well,
and then what's happening over here?
Over here, these are really cool. So these are called malaritas. These are little Sardinian handmade pastas. Each one of these is handmade. All right.
Teach us what to do.
So you just take your little thing, okay, and you press your thumb really hard so that it curls over itself.
Okay,
there you go.
Great.
You
Hold
got
on,
it.
Hold
you
on.
got
Let's try again.
What's Josh doing?
I'm doing a little curl.
He's
Josh,
so delicate.
all right, ready? One more. Ready?
Look at that.
Yeah.
Press and move.
Okay, it's harder than it looks.
Yeah, it is.
Ooh,
Imagine how
that
these
one's
guys
pretty.
feel.
Can I try it?
I eat raw pasta all the time.
Look at
That's
this.
really good.
I created a new shape. It's called the doodle pasta. Doodleini.
You're hired.
Once we learned how to make the pasta, it was time to learn how to cook it.
We are going to make chickpea pappardelle with chickpeas, rosemary, garlic, lemon. Why don't you guys come back here and make it with me? What people don't often realize about cooking pasta is like you want to undercook it in this part so that you can finish cooking in the pan. I used to go to this place in a tiny town in Tuscany and eat a pasta that was chickpeas and rosemary and garlic and cheese, and I, for some reason, have been thinking about it since then, which was 19 years ago, and finally put it on a menu. I don't know what took me so long.
Josh, how excited are you right now for this?
Beyond. This is a dream come true for me. Toast to a magical pasta adventure.
To a pasta adventure.
At the end, there's that little lemon zest. Just at the end. It's subtle, but it's perfect.
You see why I've wanted to make this for 19 years?
I love the story behind this because I feel like I'm kind of transported back to, your time in Italy. And
Yeah, every dish for me sort of has like a reason of why it's on. I think there's a familiarity to my cooking that makes people feel like they're eating something they know, but they're eating it in a little bit more refined fashion than they can necessarily do at home, but it makes them think of things they might have grown up with.
Finally, it was time for the moment of truth. Tasting the pasta.
Oh. Here it is. Oh,
That looks incredible.
It smells amazing.
Oh my God, they're beautiful.
That's
Thank
gorgeous.
you so much.
Thank you so much.
Sheep's milk ricotta inside of the ravioli. I love that. What are you tasting right now?
The burrata adds that little salty fishiness to it, which I like. Mixed with the lemon. This is a very addictive dish. I gotta go for more. You know what I always say, Allie? Is diet starts tomorrow. I say that every day. It's a diet. I take pictures of everything I eat and put it on my Instagram at Foodie Magician. Anyways, I want to do a nice picture of this spaghetti. So can you twirl it up? Oh my God, this is stunning. This is beautiful. I want to get it out.
Oh my God.
Is it good?
I know, he's really jealous right now.
Give me some. Come on.
This is super savory. The other was a little sweet, but the fennel on this gives it a really nice touch. I like that it's, you know, a little licoricey.
Yeah, a little earthiness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these Sicilian almonds that gives just the right nuttiness. Almost nutty.
I was
You're
gonna
gonna say
say,
that.
you took the words right out of my mouth.
I'm a mentalist.
My favorite reaction that I will ever get from anyone is, I was just in Italy and this is better than anything I ate there. I mean, I learned how to cook pasta in Italy and studied it and over the last many years, and I think when people have just been there and they can feel like they're back in Italy eating food that's equally as good or in the same league or better, to me that's the biggest compliment. Or when people say this reminds me of home.
You may think of a steaming bowl of ramen as the classic Japanese dish, but what if I told you ramen actually originated from China, and there's another type of noodle that's native to Japan? It's called soba.
It's interesting that people think that ramen is the quintessential Japanese noodle, but soba has more of a history.
Not that long ago, you know, a lot of ramen was referred to as chuka soba, which literally means Chinese soba.
I headed out to Sobaya with comedian and host of the Asian Not Asian podcast, Fumi Abe. We're going to see how soba is made, and Fumi is going to teach me how to eat soba.
Yes, this feels like some sort of ancient like yoga technique or something. You know, it's very good on my back.
While ramen is made from wheat flour, soba is made from buckwheat. Served hot or cold, soba noodles are known for their nutty, rich flavor and are brown, long, and thin like spaghetti.
When you go have ramen, you're not first asked hot or cold, right? And so even from the get-go, I think soba has more versatility to it.
Cold soba, also known as Zaro soba, is served chilled and dry on a bamboo tray and is sometimes topped with seaweed or served like a salad.
Soba is more about really tasting the flavor of the noodle. I think ramen, it's more about the broth and the texture of the noodle.
Popular throughout Japan, regardless of the season, soba noodles can be found all over the country in most noodle shops and differ from region to region. As machine-made and instant noodles grow in popularity, the tradition of making soba noodles by hand is being practiced less and less.
If you just make everything by machine, then you're gonna lose the skills and the knowledge that all these artisans have that were passed on generation by generation.
Fumi and I joined Victor, who's been practicing the craft for the past 15 years.
You know, Victor, he's Mexican, but he trained so hard so that when a Japanese person comes from Japan and eats our soba, and they see who makes it, they're surprised. They think, this is better than Japan. It is truly a, you know, passing on the knowledge to the next generation kind of task.
Soba starts off with mixing 80% buckwheat flour and 20% wheat flour. Okay, so what is the first step that we do?
Oh, first we gotta make sure it's really mixed.
Together?
Mix it.
This feels good.
Oh my God.
It feels really good.
It's so soft.
Oh my gosh.
Next step is we gotta dump the water little by little. Soba depends a lot on the water.
It's not as soft anymore thanks to the water, but yeah, I feel like these little pebbles. Okay, I'm doing this all wrong, I feel. What, do I just put it in the middle like this?
Got it. Do like you're washing clothes.
Like I'm washing clothes? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, have you washed clothes like
No,
this?
I hate doing that. Like by the river? What do you mean? Like what?
This is next. We got the soba dough.
Okay.
What we gotta do now is unroll it. So a little flour so it doesn't stick with your hands. And this is the movements, like turning.
You turn it like this?
Right.
By pushing?
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm stretching it. Is that okay?
Press a little bit, yeah.
You make this 70 times every day.
Not every day, only New Year's Day because
Toshikoshi
soba.
But yeah, on New Year's, typically we would eat it, which is like a tradition that Japanese people like to do, which is to say goodbye to the previous year by eating soba at midnight, like hopping over the year soba.
This is the fun part.
This is the fun part?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa! Look at his arms.
Oh my
Get his
God.
arms.
After the dough achieves the perfect consistency, it's time to hand cut the noodles into spaghetti-like strands.
Whoa! Oh my God, flex. My God. This It's interesting how like the Italians have like the pasta maker, you know, but this is what the Japanese people thought of.
It's so delicate.
It is. It's like a live animal. It's like your baby, you know? Oh my gosh.
Pat, 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 pat. Hit, 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 hit.
That's how we learn how to do soba.
Once the dough is formed, the chef adds noodles to boiling water until they are cooked. The final dish comes with a small cup of broth or sauce that complements the noodles and completes the dish.
So the tip is then to like take your chopsticks, lift the noodles,
Yes.
dip, and then slurp.
Yes.
Okay.
And then,
Mmm.
the sound in a noodle shop is like almost like a compliment to the chef. But, you know, in America and, you know, as foreign people kind of move to Japan and see what we're doing over there, you know, slurping is internationally regarded as a little inappropriate, right? It's not uncommon to see like a Japanese person eating noodles today and that person will not slurp. Because of societal pressures. You can still kind of taste that like the buckwheat like bitterness a little bit, you know, like the overtone of that. Are you getting sauce all over yourself?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think I slurped it wrong.
Oh my gosh, you're a mess. So if you go to Tokyo or something and you're looking for a soba restaurant,
Yeah.
my dad always tells me like don't go to Google, don't like try to find the best soba restaurant. Like just look around and see where all like the Japanese salarymen are eating.
Yeah.
And so if you see like a bunch of like Japanese salarymen like eating with their white shirts and they're not talking to anybody and they're just slurping, they'll finish their meal in like 45 seconds, and that's the place you want to go to. You're so silent. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, because I'm enjoying this food.
No, but let the
Oh, it's slurping. Oh my god, you're right, you're
I
right.
don't hear any slurping.
You're right. I'm so rude. I'm so sorry. Let me slurp.
I think a lot of us, if you're like second generation or like 1.5 generation, we're always kind of like, our identity is always just like confusing because, you know, you don't really feel like you belong with the people back in your home country, or, you know, or like the Western people don't always see you as one of them here. But like through traditions like that, I think it's a good way to just kind of like remind yourself that like at the end of the day, like I'm just trying to eat some soba and, you know, we have that in common.